Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick with a forceful grip. They force a misinfo that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature to mean extorted it. They forging it if news anchors informants who informing them. There's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this: we port in ships, important gifts, of course it is. But extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks we ignoring, which informant this, informant this. It looked like we were snoring tricked. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers actors say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real?
All right, what's up, guys? We are going without video. Okay, as you can hear, my boy Gio is super thirsty. And yeah, this is going to be a lot of gravy. Honestly, I'm going to be soaking in gravy, so everyone just get their biscuits ready. You know, I'm not going to be talking just a ton. We got two legends that are going to help us ladle Mr. C and Just Check. I'm going to add them in, and then we're just going to go from there. It should be good times. So if you're going to spiral with some churchian theology, feel free to go ahead and exit. And without further ado, hopefully he's ready. What's up, Mr. C?
Good evening.
Well, hello. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Cannot complain. And of course, we got the legend Just Jack over here beside me. What is up?
Good evening, Just Jack.
What is up?
Yeah.
So,
what is up?
You guys constantly turn my mind to gravy and melt it. So what y'all want to start with?
Real quick, I just want to say this, Mr. C. I had already asked you to come on the show tonight with Just Jack and to verify if you were free. And so I brought you up to Just Jack, and he goes, "Man, I love that guy. Last time he was talking, I could tell that guy was my brother. He was on the same wavelength with me." So it's funny how that works out, that he already knew who you were and heard the stream and everything and was excited to have you on. So I think, honestly, Austin and I can just step back. You and Just Jack, just ladle, bro. Let's go ahead. Let him hear what you have to say.
Yeah,
Cool.
So when I heard you, I don't know how long ago, it was a little over a month ago, but you were talking about the metaphysicality of us and how, basically, if we knew our true potential as spirit beings and realized that our flesh bags, or whatever you call them, our transport bodies are what actually holds us back from our true potential. I came to that realization because I was training to be a pastor. That basically all Christianity was based on paganism, child sacrifices, orgies, all sorts of nasty, nasty stuff. And I became an atheist for about 5 seconds before the Creator reminded me of all the times He intervened in my life. And then I took a hard look at, everything I learned in church, and then tried to compare it to Scripture and found out that basically nothing matches. So then I taught myself.
Yep.
and studied scriptures for myself, and I did my own literal interpretation of Genesis chapter 1. And it took me a year to do, because when they tell me, well, this word means this, then I try to, ask, well, where did they come to that conclusion? And what it comes down to is, when I did the literal interpretation of Genesis 1, I realized that, before, or actually 1, 2, and 3, but before we ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that we were metaphysical beings that did not have skin. That when he wrapped us with skin, he wrapped us with this physical body that limits us from doing what our true intent was, which was to have dominion over the earth, which means that we should be interacting with and creating, recreating, or co-creating this realm. And when I realized that, then a lot of stuff that you were talking about made a lot of sense to me, because I realized that the more that we get the nonsense out that we were taught as children, when children are young and not taught very much yet, they believe that it's possible to fly. They believe that it's possible to heal and be healed and all these things. And then we teach them, oh no, there's these limits that we have. And so what I found that, once I started applying my life to reading scripture without religion, is that my children are limitless, more limitless than myself, because they pray for people and they're healed. And I can't do that. I can't get myself out of my own head of, that's my limitation.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, I also believe what Paul said is that the battlefield is of the mind. We have the flesh, earthly, flesh bag desires, and then we have the spirit influence trying to get us to do the right thing. And I don't believe in invisible bad guys making us do bad things. I think we conjure up these enemies ourselves.
Yeah, I would say that we are the enemy.
Agreed.
Yeah,
agreed. Even the word Satan means Satan means opposition. So us, when we're out of line with what the Creator wants, we're being Satan.
Yep. Yeah. I remember when I believe it was Timothy. Yeshua was laying out the plan, right? So he was given Torah instruction to his dudes, and he's like, no, we're not going to let that happen, and to put a modern twist on it, I'm going to get my AK-47 and we're going to jack these dudes and nobody's going to lay a hand on you. And what did Yeshua say? He said, get under me, Hasatan.
Right.
So it was what he was saying was,
it wasn't that they were being evil. It's just they were opposing the plan.
Right. Well, and it goes a bit deeper. I personally believe that anytime that we get ramped up, and I'm a big temper guy. My robot is a northern berserker. Let's get naked and go cut heads. Right. So,
right.
I personally believe that in moments of anger, when we kind of lose it, everybody uses that term, let's air quote, lose it.
Right.
I believe that is the body. I believe that is the fallen being. And so what Yeshua was saying was that the eternal being had lost control, and the fallen thing was flapping his gums, and Yeshua spun around and said, get under me, which is a term of authority. Get under me, the opposition, Hasatan.
Right.
So, and he has authority, obviously, over the opposition, to be clear. But let's cover real quick the word Satan, because there's a lot of word confusion. The word Satan can be used for a single entity, a single man or woman, or it can be used to describe a group. So, it's very context critical.
Anything
when it comes to that word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Technically, we would be Satan. We would be Satan. If Satan was real, then anyone going with God would be Satan to him.
Yeah, yes. I do believe.
I think what he's saying is, if there was an entity named Satan and we were on the side of the Creator, then we would be Satan to Satan, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like the term Mashiach, or the Greek equivalent. So it just means, which is Christos. It just means anointed. and it's used actually. It actually
Right.
is used to mean the group of guys, meaning, hey, if you're in the club, you're in the anointed, or you are or have been anointed, like saying set apart, right?
Right.
So
Right.
these
Correct.
terms, like there is no guy, there was no guy named Jesus Christ. It wasn't like John Smith, like you can write Jesus
Nope.
Christ, P.O. Box 101. You know, it was saying Yeshua Mashiach, he is anointed.
Right. Right. I concur. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
So,
mean, I was talking to. Go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead.
Okay, I was talking to Witsit earlier. You know,
Hmm.
it changes the perspective when you realize like all these words that given new meanings to, like, you know, when reading Genesis 1 and hearing that you have dominion over the earth, when I was in churchianity, I was told often that means we have the ability to capture and kill
Yeah.
and all these things to the animals.
Destroy. Yeah.
In that same context, it says that everything that grows is food for us and everything that grows is to be food for them. So what does this dominion mean? And then again, through my literal translation, it means to cover and to
A guardianship.
basically to protect and to provide.
Yep. Yeah, it's a guardianship. It's a picture of yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
so doing like if the earth is screwed up, we should be able to manifest its healing, not with geoengineering, not with production control, but the simple manifestation of our spirit to indwell in the spirit of the earth to repair it, to heal it, and we've lost that.
I can tell you in my understanding, Yeshua dropped in here as part of a plan that was annotated in Isaiah, in my personal opinion, where the condition of man had failed to a point that it was irredeemable, meaning either the cure for these things is too costly, it's too expensive per item, if that makes sense, per unit, or it's not ready yet, or whatever. For whatever reason, Yeshua came down and said, sorry, suckers, you're walking around in vampires that desire all the bad things. It's a bummer, but focus on being a being of light, focus on being in control, focus on shalom, which is a word that means to be complete in every way, and peace is just a component of shalom. But essentially, Yeshua was like coming down to give everyone hope, because at that time is like this time where really everyone's hopeless. Everybody has their own
Right.
religion, everybody has their own belief.
That's it. You hit the nail right on the head. It's because of religion. And if you realize, like if you get out of the churchianity and you read the book for yourself, you realize that Yeshua was in constant fights with the religious leaders.
Mm-hmm.
They were restricting
Yeah,
these people of realizing who the creator is and who they were in regards to the creator, because they started putting men in charge.
Where did those people come from, though?
Well, I mean, as far as what I know, if you're talking about Judaism, that came out of Babylon when they were taken into captivity.
Absolutely.
And then when they came out of captivity, some of the residual stuff came over, and then they reintroduced it when Constantine took over and started his nonsense.
Well, it never really died. It never really went away.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It added another iteration to them, where they even, we were talking earlier about the calendar. One of the big things that the Jews did is Hillel the Two's calendar that says, well, now that we're being kicked out of our land, we're going to do this mathematical Babylonian calendar. And that's what the Jewish calendar is today. It has nothing to do with the observation of nature. That is our calendar that Yah gave us.
Yeah. What about being in in my opinion, as a scholar, the land is still cursed. There was no recension of the curse on the land. By the way, the creator never at any point says, I'm going to stop destroying cities. So everybody should probably feel lucky that I personally don't feel like he's turned and looked. And that's confusing to anyone that doesn't study Hebrew, but it's a
I
Hebrew
completely
term.
agree.
Yeah,
It's getting bad enough, but there's not enough outcry about it. That's the problem. If you realize every time that those things happened, there was a great outcry, then Yah would turn his face towards the people and deliver them. There's no more outcry. People are just blindly going along with whatever they're being told.
Well, remember, we're in the dispersion, right? So, well, let's maybe cover that a little bit. This is a good junction, I think, to ask the question, who is Israel?
Well,
And
I mean, that gets tricky, doesn't it? I mean, the land of Israel.
that's no. Who is
Geographic
Israel? Not geographically, because Israel
No.
has never been a geographical location.
I agree.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, as far as I understand it, I use Numbers 15 to explain who is Israel, because it says whether you're native born or you join yourself to him. If you join yourself to Yah, you are Israel. That you are true Israel.
There you go. Perfect.
Spiritual. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's not. I mean, the people who are calling themselves Israel today are hijackers. I mean, they
don't even have a temple to do their.
They're wanting to build
the temple, yeah, and the temple is a completely different show. Let me just put this out there, that I personally believe that the temple and the entire process was a curse for Aaron, because I don't think the creator liked the dude very much. But let's move on, because that would be its own show.
Well, I mean, let me give you my input of that. Is that I think it was okay. You guys are not going to me openly, so now you're going to have a structured way of doing it. So that's my perspective on it. But I mean, it's like if you read, different variations of those who said that they saw heaven throughout the prophecies, they described it pretty much. The dimensions pretty much coincide with the tabernacle or temple. But they another thing that I figured out by reading and not just believing what I was told is that the sacrifices for sin and atonement didn't happen until after the tablets breaking. Before that, it was gift offerings, love offerings, peace offerings, and then when they broke the covenant, then it was all about, okay, now you need to do this atonement thing, you need to do this sinful sacrifice thing. And by the way, the word that says sin sacrifice, it just says sin, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and that's it's kind of refreshing to speak with, and we're not alone, obviously, to speak with people that actually get into the Hebrew and the Greek and into the text and then challenge it. Yeah. And you and I have found that we can go into the King Jimmy at any time and see a sentence, a complete sentence, where there's maybe only 2 or 3 Hebrew words that have nothing to do with it, that what they had in the English. And it's my personally belief that it's simple. The creator has used this text in a brilliant algorithm to make sure that this book is available to everybody. Remember, the current printing, that let's call it the 1850 printing that everybody uses, right? This 1850 organization is meant to be for our time. And is it just a coincidence that it's in every hotel room? I have 9 of them in my own house. Almost everybody has access to the Bible. Now, you have copper at the surface. You can get a lot of Torah out of the English translation. Now, you can go a little deeper, and you can go into the Greek, and you can get the silver. And then you can go and get the gold, which is in the Hebrew, which is, in my personal belief, the original language, the original tongue, and the oldest language. So, here's the puzzle. Here's the key to the puzzle. If anybody wants the keys to see what the text actually says, and I love, by the way, Strong's organization of the King Jimmy.
It's a good start. It's a good start.
Yeah, it's a wonderful. He did a wonderful job, because Hebrew's very much like Tonto, right? It's like horse down by water, thirsty, had drink. Right. And so what Strong would do a lot of times is he would actually switch some of the words around to be a little more legible to us. Yeah, exactly. A little. Yes. So essentially, all people have to do is undo the spell that they don't have to deal with in Latin, but we certainly have to deal with in English and other languages. And that's that they
Right.
allow things and compose things to change in meaning. So if you go back into the Hebrew and you ignore all the Nikud pointings, because that's the Masorah, who are the Parash, in my opinion, you go through and you only look at the root meanings, and then you look at the
Right.
family of how the word origin, because you're going to have the root of the word, and then there's additions, of course, and you look at the entire family, and you can get an idea of how that word evolved. Now, sometimes there's weird associations in Hebrew, like you'll see like horse hoof and ice cream, and you're like, I don't get it. And even the other scholars don't get it, because there's a lot of things from
Yeah.
Olam or ancient times we'll never get. There's figures of speech and so on and so forth. So if anybody listening
Right.
within earshot, if you want to taste the secret of scripture, get a King James Bible that's keyed to the
And that's
Strongs.
peeling back the first layer.
Yep, and
King
peel
James
it back.
and-
Yeah, exactly. And peel that layer back and get a taste for how it has been changed, and for the other context that you can receive.
And if you want to go back one more layer, one that I really like is the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Bible. But
Yeah, Jeff
I
Benner.
think that's a really good
Yeah.
one too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Also,
Yeah.
guys, if you don't have any money right now, I know times are tough, but Blue Letter Bible will translate all these words for you, so you can get a deeper meaning of
Yeah,
what the English is.
Yep.
That's the Strong's right website. Yeah. Yep.
eSword is
Blue
another
Letter-
free resource
Yeah.
for computers.
eSword.
So, yep,
Did you
eSword
know
is another
that?
one. What's that?
Dude, that's my thing. Dang, yo.
We're going to
Dude,
be comparing eSword modules now.
Exactly. eSword, dude, everybody should download eSword. It's free.
Yeah.
You can get all sorts of different translations, all sorts of different dictionaries and stuff like that. I found eSword very awesome because it parallels those $2,000 Bible study programs.
Yes. Yeah, it's very powerful.
It's very good. Yeah. And that's what started me on my journey. eSword was very, very predominant in my Torah study for sure.
Did you know that you could get the AHLB module for that?
Yes, I have it.
Oh,
yes.
Good deal. Good deal. A lot of guys don't know that.
I was actually talking about my version, my sword. So
nice. Yeah. See, it's refreshing. I'm enjoying this.
The Android version is my sword, and the ripoffs, Apple, they charge like $3 for it, but it's called Sword Lite. But yeah, dude, I love the ALHB, and I also use for studying. I use KJV with Strong's and the AHLB to go deeper. And for reading, I use TS 2009, which is called the Scriptures version.
Yep.
I'm really a fan of that one. But yeah, dude, even when I look at like Strong's, or even in the ancient Hebrew, I get a understanding to where I can see where like there's supposed to be one that's supposed to be closer, which I disagree now, but they used to say that the Jewish Publication Society translation would be the closest, but it's not.
No, none of them are. None of them are close.
But what I did is the word, I'll give you for instance, the word eretz means any physical, tangible plane. And that includes our physical bodies and everything else. And the Shemayim is the plural unseen existences, or the spaces. So the reason I say that is because the root of the word Shem is unseen existences, such as Shem meaning a name, Sham meaning there, stuff like that. It's the existence that's unseen is the Shemayim. The unseen existences. That includes vibration, frequency, electricity, all that stuff.
That's funny you bring that up, because I was just looking in Genesis, and it actually, because here's the thing too, is how do you connect the Hebrew words together? Because in order to have a cognizant point of division in a sentence, it can be tough, because a lot of people are confused by, in Genesis it'll say, and the morning and the evening were the first day, in my opinion, that's just a complete garbage translation.
Yeah,
To
the way that I translate it is, and there was the mingled darkness time, and there was the seen light day one, Yom 1. Okay, so right there it gets confusing. And I also, just to go back even further, Bereshit, which is translated as in the beginning, I actually translate it as bara, which means creation, and sheet, which means established. So it's creation establishment.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Which would be
that's the thing you
a
got
true statement either way. Yeah.
Yeah, but because I believe that Yah is the beginning, and then Barashit was the establishment of the creation. So it was when he brought order to it. So it's like, these things that I question. These are not things that I typically would talk to a Christian the first day of meeting them, just to let you know.
No.
But there's a bunch of open-minded people here that are willing to listen to this kind of stuff. The way that it happened for me is when I was being trained as a pastor, I started finding out the roots of the Christian church which were not good. And then what I did is I wrote down every practice, every belief that I had in Christianity, and tried to find proof of it in the scriptures. And that's where it fell apart. And so when I did like that first chapter translation, the reason it took me a year is because I don't want someone to just tell me. I want to understand what the real source is, what the real root is. I think roots matter. Like when you look at the roots of Christianity, you find out how bad it is. When you look at the roots of the geocentric model and all that nonsense, see that the root of it was philosophically and spiritually about not wanting to trust in the Creator. It's purposeful, So when I, all the beliefs that I had, like for instance, I had a guy come up to me, and he was new to reading Torah and stuff. And he asked me, do we keep the 10 commandments or the 613? And I was like, well, definitely not the 613. I already went down that rabbit trail. That's a bunch of nonsense. And when you look at the 10 commandments, it actually doesn't say 10 commandments. It's actually 10 literal words. It's a statement of contract between the Creator and his people. And they literally mistranslate it in Jewish or English translations as 10 commandments when it literally says 10 words. They're hiding something there. And the reason that they say that they can do this is because in the Talmudic thinking, you keep these 10, then we can adjust the rest of the commandments to our, to what fits for us. And it's just a cop-out. And Christians use the same cop-out by saying, if you love God and your neighbor, that's it.
Yeah, it's they'll because Christianity is about data mining. So you come up with a word and you go and you do a searchy poo in the Bible and you find passages in the English that sound kind of like the point you want to make, and then you use those out of context. And when I was studying
to be a pastor, there's actually websites where you can download sermons.
Like yes, exactly.
And all you have to do is keywords, and it creates a sermon for you.
Yeah, I know.
Like I want to do a teaching about love, and they'll okay, do you want it more in this chat or this book or that book? And they just cut and paste all they want. And then, as a Christian, I would read the notes from, Sunday, and I'd come home and I'd try to look up those notes again in my Bible, and they never matched up. They just paste and make up story and, make you feel good. They get the really fast songs, get you pumped up.
Yeah.
The really slow, mellow you into the teaching. It's circus. It's not church.
Well, it's if you look up ecclesia. Yeah. Oh no, it is. I'm not real popular on one of my social medias because I just give it with both barrels, and one of the deals is I ask people, I say, do you have a coffee kiosk to get into your church? When you go through the commons? And
oh my God,
most of them say yes, and then I ask them, how are you going to sit there and explain to Jesus that you're having a place of exchange in his temple, supposedly, that's supposed to be his temple? Yeah, and you have the money changing there. And
dude, when I started learning about phallic symbology, I used to go to this church, And when you drive past it on the interstate, it looks like a giant phallic symbol, man. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like they made the whole building look like a phallic symbol. It's ridiculous.
Was it a rock?
Well, who
Yeah.
owns Christianity, guys?
Huh?
Who owns Christianity?
Oh, you want my opinion?
No, literally, like
that
trademarked, and they have chain of title, meaning they started it.
Yeah, the establishment was from Constantine and the Roman Catholic Church.
That's right. It's the Roman Catholic. So for Protestants to be like, oh, we're the church, we're it. No, you came way later, bro. The title
Yeah.
is long been taken, and so your Catholicism B. They still do. In my old church, I did it 38 years of my life. We did, I don't know how many Catholic ceremonies that are, you slap a near name on them. That's kind of like what they do. And you do it quarterly, or you do it this way. And it's like I say, it's Catholicism B. And it's what the Bible represents. And the reason it's so easy and yet so hard is, we've already given you the answer. If you want the answer to scripture and you want to be enlightened, go back and word for word, sit down with a piece of paper, and you translate it for yourself. And if it comes out different every time, it's because you're learning. But I'll guarantee you, nobody is going to sit down for 5 years straight like I have and live and breathe translation. And because of that,
Yeah, I mean,
there's going to be a separation.
The thing is like when people ask me if I'm a Christian, I say no, I'm a skeptical Bible literalist. And the reason I say that I'm a skeptical Bible literalist is because as I'm studying things, I might change tomorrow. It might be something completely different from what I believe today. I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm reading and applying, and I'm seeing the fruition, what works, what works.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give you for instance, and I don't know where you stand on this, and that's okay. But I used to do Friday night Sabbath, right? Friday night to Saturday night Sabbath. And I did that for years and years and years. And then a friend of mine says, where did we get this Friday night Sabbath from? And I'm like, you bastard. Because he knew I was going to look, right? And of course, it comes out of Judaism, stuff. But the thing is like he gave me a few verses to look up and say, can you resolve the Friday night beginning the day, or the evening beginning the day with these verses? And I couldn't. Yeah. And the one that was the killer for me was in Exodus 15, where he sends the quail and the manna, and he says that in the sixth day you do a portion and you carry it over for the Sabbath. Well, the quail came at evening. They had a whole portion of quail. They had to defeather it, debone it, cook it, whatever.
Oh, hey, let me pause you right here, and I'm going to do exactly what your buddy did to you. Why don't you go back and reevaluate that story about how that quail was a gift? Go back to Numbers 11.
No, it wasn't a gift. No.
Yeah.
they were complaining, and he made them, they had a upset tummy from eating that quail. So
no. It's the go back and look at the Hebrew there. It's Gibrath Chatovah, meaning the graveyard of desire. He killed thousands of people when their teeth touched the dead of those birds. It was a test, and they failed miserably.
Yeah.
But look at the Hebrew. The Hebrew word there can be plague, but in the context, it's to crush as a mortise and pestle crushes spice. So that's not a real super pretty picture. I don't know what kind of gravitational wave he used on those people, but it wasn't good. And that's the thing is the English stories will never lead you down the same path that the gold path is. Get it? So if you're in the English and that's the copper, if you try to bring some of the copper into the silver, it'll just bring confusion. You literally have to remember everything you learned in the church, because you're going to think Jesus Christ is a guy's name.
Oh, you got to do that with the globe too.
Let's just cover that one.
Exactly.
For the basics for some people, because all right, so a lot of people. Yeah, there you go. Jesus Christos is still in the boundary to the United States. Still Zeus when they say this name. So many people spiral. So there's still power in the name, and that we should still say it. Of course, we're told there's power in the name, and it's pretty exclusively told that it's important. So do y'all want to maybe ladle the direct grabbling that y'all uncovered when it comes to the name of Yeshua?
Well, I mean, we went through a couple layers because he mentioned the Jesus thing like that. But have you ever heard of the Jewish anagram for Yesu?
That must be Kabbalah, huh? The anagram.
So even in the Talmud, they use the term Yesu to call out somebody that they don't like.
Oh,
instance,
yes, I'm familiar. Yes. I am familiar. Yes, correct. Yep. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yes,
Yeah,
they do.
so
It's a derogatory term. Yeah.
yes, Yesu is actually Yimak Shamo. Hold on, I just had it. Oh my goodness, I lost my page. Yimak Shamo Vazikro, and it means may his name and memory be blotted out. And then the Greeks added make it a masculine name like Copernicus, Perseus, Caesar Augustus. They always added us at the end for the males. So Yesu, may his name be blotted out, turn into Jesus, and then Jesus, and then English Jesus. That's what I found out.
So wait, are you trying to say that the name Jesus that everyone's taught in the Western world, at the least, actually means the opposite of any type of reference to Yeshua?
Yeah, it's like a curse on his name and his memory.
So to blot out the memory of Yeshua, that's what Jesus means?
And they purposely leave the ion off the end of it because they want you to
be specific. This is Judaism. This is something that Talmud and Judaism has done. To be clear,
when the Greeks asked how to use this name Yeshua or Yahusha or however you say it, I'm not going to get into that. But when they asked the Jews said Yesu and they as Jesus.
Hey guys,
so
real quick, let's cover something so we're not on walking on glass with each other with pronunciations. Are we going to go down to the crick later or the creek? Does that make sense?
One.
Meaning, either one. The vowel. Yeah. So the vowel, and we forget that we have variations in English. You know, if you're from Texas, you can have different variations. If you're from Kentucky, and right. And so when people, specifically using the Nakud, because the Masorah said this is how this is the type of vowel you have to put in between these consonants. The reality is that I believe, and this happens in Germany and everywhere, that you can have a little bit of variant in these pronunciations, and everybody in the conversation is going to get it. Right. So I don't get hung up on vowels.
The point of this, folks, is that if you're still calling on Jesus, then you're saying may his name and memory be blotted out, or at least if you want to go down this route, Jesus, but that's different letters, so that's I don't buy that one.
Well,
but go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, let's look at a different angle. You know, at the time, if you go back and look at all of the cities that were in a lot of those areas, they were actually named with Zeus or Seuss at the end as well. And so you can tell that it's a completely Hellenized title. And anyone that has a computer in their palm of their hand now can go and search right now, when did the J become something in a language? And it's of course modern. Yes, it's very, very modern. Yeah, very modern. So
rabbit hole, man.
if you go into the Last Supper and you show up and you might not have tzitziot on, you might not be saying the right verbiage, and you're like, yo, where's Jesus Christ? He might be like, who? Because let's be real, whether it was in an Aramaic dialect or if it was in a Hebrew dialect, and we know that they were using the ancient forms of Hebrew to even write at the time. It doesn't matter. You're going to be calling out for Bob, and he's looking for a different name, if that makes any sense. So if you think the Bible is a psyop, I would agree with you. The modern English Bible is meant to deceive.
What a great line, bro.
The translations were made to hide the truth, for sure. Like I tell people, like if I married my wife and I didn't clarify, her name, and I call her Christy, she'll keep answering me because she knows who I'm talking to. But eventually, she's going to be like, "Look, my name is Carolyn. please learn my name and call me by it.
Yeah.
I think
All right.
that's why it's important.
And this is what's so crazy that blew my mind when I thought about it. It's actually incredibly disrespectful. This is like a common
It is.
thing. So if like think
Learn
about
my name, yeah.
yeah, like Netanyahu, right? Like we just talked about the physical state of Israel as a joke, and clearly they usurped everything within their grasp. But the point is that if that little grabbler came over to eat dinner, you wouldn't call him Netanyahu, right? Because his name is Netanyahu, and that's just a mispronunciation, not a complete change. And that's like a common courtesy that I would show to even a grab that I can't stand, like my adversary, in my opinion, right? So it's
hey guys,
they,
just to break in real quick, Austin. Not to interrupt, but this is going to be golden for you guys. You ready? Anybody can do this because people don't understand the difference between a transliteration and a translation. Okay, so real quick, everybody say Yeshua.
Yeshua.
Okay, now real quick, does anybody not know how to make those sounds out of your mouth?
Flows freely for me.
Okay, so is there any confusion with anybody that sounded like Jesus?
No, it did not,
It did not sound like Jesus.
at all like Jesus.
Okay, so in any language,
Right.
if they don't like let's say in Afrikaans, my good buddy who passed away, Josh, grew up in South Africa, and he said in Afrikaans they didn't have a word for wrench, and this guy was writing a manual in order how to work on this thing, right? And so they would just add ski to the end of an English word. And so he would say you would get this wrench ski and this half-inch or 10-millimeter wrench ski, right? But what they're doing there is they're manufacturing a word and then adding a suffix to the end to make it their own, right?
Right.
But there is absolutely, and I've just proven it, zero reason to anybody listening, there is zero reason to transliterate Yeshua's name. Whether he said Yehoshua, whether it was Yeshua or Yahshua, the vowels in there don't matter. Anybody that would have heard his name wouldn't have been like, did you just say Jesus? Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled.
Okay, Mr. C, here is mine, bro, because we're on a narrowing path. And I'm humble. I can admit I'm wrong. And I used to say to Jack and Trevor, but God looks at the heart. He doesn't care what sounds are rolling off my tongue. He's looking at my heart. So what would you say to that?
Well, I would bring up the Torah where he said, listen, I can evaluate your heart at any time. I'll lay you down. I'm going to tear you into pieces and I'll examine your heart. Or we could just watch your life. We could see is this vampire acting like a vampire, or is it acting out of sorts? Is it a sheep in a field of goats? Is it a wheat in a field of tares? Because
Amen.
really, let's Yeshua really laid stuff down in such a wonderful way that was so very childlike, except we like to confuse things and we like to make them harder than they are.
Right.
It's really, really, really simple. He says when Torah says lo ratzak, lo means no, ratzak means murder. It's across the board. It means if there's an animate, meaning something created separate from your own self, meaning it's not attached to you, meaning you don't have legal control over it, and you go and you stop it prematurely from its animated course, that is the definition of murder. And so, boy, we could go on and on about this, but I guess we wanted to cover diet, didn't we? Do we want to segue into that?
We did, but you said definition of murder. Didn't Jesus say if you are angry with your brother, you are guilty?
Wait, who said that?
I'm sorry. Okay, we're doing push-ups now. Every time you say
Yeah.
the J word, the G word, the F word.
So just for the audience, let's cover the G word. We covered the J word. So what's the
G is God, J is Jesus, K is kids. He's not allowed to say kids either, because children, not baby Baphomet.
Right?
Yeah.
Because kids literally means baby goats.
And we're also not using the F word on the gravy train, aka chariot of truth. So if that slips off our tongue, we just drop in everyone does 5 push-ups immediately. All of us, bro, as a team. And because
Except for the noobs.
iron sharpens iron. So I'm not asking just Jack or anyone who says, "Hey, I want to come hang out with you." All of a sudden, we said a J word and you do push-up. I'm saying Austin, myself, and Chris have all agreed there's certain words we want to cut out of our vocabulary. And it's part of the narrowing path that if you're on that path, God is calling you to truth.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
I owe you push-ups.
If we weren't live, you'd have to do 5 push-ups.
So what I'm saying is that if you're not being called towards truth, well, I'm sorry. Let me know. Email me so I can pray for you, because all God's people are being called towards truth.
Yeah.
All His people.
It's a perfect live example of how it's a process.
It's programming that we
but here's
you
how
have to
I've
do this
been,
with Jesus also.
guys, this is how I've been talking to myself for the last 10 years. But He also says, you are my people. You will know the truth. So, and the truth will set you free. So, in the end, I don't think any of His people are going to not be in heaven because of words they said. He said, all things work towards good for those that love God according to His purpose. So if you slip up every single time during a live stream, it doesn't matter.
But just what I mean for the clarity of the audience real fast, it's like, God, that's what everyone references to mean the creator. That's what we've been ingrained to use this word. And I've oftentimes said I thought it was basically an abbreviation for Gadriel, the serpent. And then, of course, I get here, my boy just wants to put my mind with some more gravy. So if you want to explain that, because I think that's pretty insane.
Strong's Concordance, H1408 and 1409. God, deity of fortune, Babylonian deity. God, fortune, good fortune.
In God, we trust on the money.
So the Babylonian deity of prosperity or money.
And they made sure you.
Hey, do you guys want some more? Do you guys want some more God gravy?
Yeah.
Go to Etymology Online and type in God, and then scroll your eyes down to see also Zeus.
Breaking up.
Yeah, say that last part again. Scroll down to what?
Okay, so you go to Etymology Online, okay, and you type in God, and then you just scroll with your eyes down until you'll see it says Watkins, and then it says see also Zeus. So what it's saying is that God is referencing Zeus.
Wow.
In that generation of etymology, right? Because I could say it goes all the way back to Nimrod.
Dude, what I'm trying to say is, according to this more modern etymology that goes back, of course, these guys tie it back to Old English and, of course, maybe back to Latin and French. But they themselves, in context, are saying, "Hey, see also Zeus."
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter the etymology of God. We know that it's not Yod He Wahe.
Right.
So, Mr. C, I looked up etymology God. The third link down says Catholic Encyclopedia, and I thought, bing, let's click on that one. So it says the meaning of the name from Gothic root Gehu, Sanskrit hub or emu, to invoke or to sacrifice to, is either the one invoked or the one sacrificed to. From different Indo-Germanic roots, to shine or give light, come the Indo-Iranian diva, Sanskrit Dirus, Latin Deus, Greek Theos, Irish Galea Dia, all of which are generic names, which also are Greek for Zeus.
Yep.
So
that's what it says. That's like encyclopedia.
And they put that on your money, okay? And you don't think the entire system is the Matrix?
And guys, you should already have some red flags when these people that we know are far from the truth, or even wanting to know the truth, constantly say Jesus Christ, God. Don't we all love God? They have no problem throwing these words around.
Amen.
I mean, it's just like the same thing as the symbol of the cross. You see all these very dominant music stars who are very evil. You can just tell them their mannerisms, and they wear a cross. These signs, symbols, names that they've attributed to the creator have nothing to do with the creator.
Also, the Catholics put him on the cross every single time, and he only went to it once for you and once for me. He's not going to it over and over again. You don't need to keep putting him up there. He's not on there anymore. He's seated at the right hand of the Father. So every time you put him as a little image on the cross, huge disservice, huge graven image. If you wear one of those, I would pray about it and consider throwing it away.
Here. I've purged my house twice, looking throughout our house to see what residual crosses are left. Because we used to have a lot. I used to do artwork, and I had tons and tons of crosses in my artwork. All gone.
Also,
burnt it up.
Also, it says in the Bible, if you can measure the earth, then the promises to Israel will be taken away. So basically, every Glober asking for a map or a model is basically saying, I don't want anyone to go to heaven.
Yeah, destroy everything.
Yeah.
Destroy everything. All the promises, everything we're promised, all the hope, all the faith we have. Let's take it away because you don't have a map or a model, Nathan.
Even though they don't.
Even though they don't.
Yeah,
well, they do have a map. They have like
they don't have
30 of them.
Have a working model.
And they don't have a working model. They have
guys.
vain religion, superstition.
Guys, I have a working model. It's my avatar. Look really close.
Is that how it works, bro?
Well, listen, I mean, you can see the space station. It's right there. It's an image. And then, NASA's logo, and, it's so far back that, the continent's a little funny looking, but that's a for real image. And that's the deal is, is it a sphere or is it a circle? Is a sphere a circle? Is a ball a sphere? People have a hard time because we're so undereducated by, let's get into education. It's the Prussian model from literally the Prussian Templar Knights. Like it's literally, it's literally indoctrination class to the point that from my generation, I'm in my 40s, to the time of my son's generation in his 20s, there is such a gap in education that these kids literally can't change money. They don't know anything about even fake history.
Can I correct you on something?
Go ahead.
It's not kids, but
oh yeah, yes, not kids. Yes.
My trigger word.
Yes.
Sorry.
Legally, it's not. Legally, it shouldn't be children as well. I study the modern law, and I'm beginning to see the folly of the whole system because it's all of it really. What's funny, guys? Let's look at a law. You get a policeman, which policy and police are synonyms. And so you have this policy enforcer that will come and pistol whip you and imprison you for these words on paper that perhaps were written by somebody that's long dead. Maybe. So
he's basically a hall monitor for the kids that want to steal your lunch money.
What?
Well, no. Listen to what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you that people are spelled literally by written spells on paper and can be compelled to do anything because they believe it's what is said on that paper is so true. So, that's
money itself.
And watching the
the printed word is how you spell anything. If I ask you guys to spell anything, you're going to try to write it. Right?
Of course it's called spell.
Yes, that's not an accident. Yes, it's a spell is a spell because it's a spell. Yeshua said you have to watch out what comes out of your mouth because words have power.
Mr. C, did you know I can spell in French? F-U-C-K. Pardon me.
What?
No, I want to get on the education thing, Mr. C, because every morning they had us pledge allegiance as kids.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha.
Children, thank you.
There's gonna be jacked.
Yeah.
Man. So I'm gonna be so ripped by the end of this trip. It's gonna be insane. Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So here's the thing: they had us pledge allegiance in the morning.
Yep.
And then we didn't practice memory. We didn't learn how to build a home, pay taxes, make clothes, prepare meals. We had crammery, which was memorized for the test on Friday, and then forget it all by Monday morning.
And get punished for not doing it right.
Taking cursive out of the school system. So basically everyone's just typing on the keyboard. And with studies show when you're typing as opposed to doing cursive, the mind is so numb.
Yeah.
The mind is so dull and inactive. If you look at a PET scan, which is electron emission topography, the brain is lighting up similar to a Christmas tree when someone is doing the act of cursive penmanship or memorizing things, musical instrument, and they take all of the arts everything creative out of school. Your left hand behind your back, because 95% of people think they're right-handed when you really use both hands. That's a false dichotomy. So don't ever, you're right or left-handed, try to do things equally well. And I can back this up.
And they teach us to write left to right instead of right to left.
And let me, well, all languages
backwards.
flow towards Jerusalem from what I've learned. So Mandarin goes right to
That's
left.
their
So
excuse.
here's the interesting thing, right? It just shows that where everything's come from.
Hebrew can be written both ways, guys. That the ancient, it can go right to left or left to right.
Are you saying grabblers go both ways?
Yeah, I am saying that. Yeah. No, it's not modernly. Anciently, it would depend on the direction of the letters. You could look at the aleph and look at which way it was facing, and you could see how to read it.
Mr. C, like, this is my area of specialty with applied neuroscience. So when you take one hand, tied behind your back, you're basically turning off half your brain. So left-handed people live in a right-handed world. They've done studies on left-handed people and said, well, look at their corpus callosum. It's on average 10 or 11% bigger than right-handed people, because left-handed people are constantly having to move information from one side of the brain to the other side of the brain. That bridge is called the corpus callosum. So it connects both sides. So what's interesting is when I started using both hands at 25 years old, I started growing taller. So my steroid factory, which is my brain, half of it turned on. So half of my memory turned on, because you have what's called hippocampus.
Do you want to hear some? Do you want to hear some synchronicity there? That's with you there. So, I myself, understanding that the Prussian model teaches everyone to be right-handed because all the levers are on the right, and it's more expensive to have all this variation because they're trying to make a manufacturing army, right? So, according to my mother, I was ambidextrous when I was a child. So in 2018, I was at my cousin's house, and we were waiting for them to get there. And once again, I grabbed a football and tried to throw it left-handed. And of course, we all know what happened. I mean, I look like, I'm nothing against girls, but I look like I was a girl, like throwing a football like a girl. So, I realized. Yes, exactly. I'm using an old saying. When I say that. But anyway, so
yeah, don't be rude.
It's an old saying.
Right now.
Anyway,
I can hear you. In case you
so
she can hear you, bro.
So,
she's doing dishes.
So
get us dinner.
So and to be clear, I know a lot of girls that throw a ball very well. So anyway, what it made clear to me is that I had been divided. I had been divided in half by the system. As a child, I had been essentially, just like you're saying, my brain had been divided by them training me to be one-sided. And since then, I am proficient in writing. I write Hebrew with my left hand because it's more natural. It's because it's a right to left. What's that?
Hallelujah.
Sorry.
Hallelujah.
I was saying amen, praise Yah, and I said praise G word, and now I'm just going to start making a tally of how many push-ups I got to do by the end of this live stream. At least 5. So
go ahead. 3, continue.
Sorry interruption.
Let's just have
awesome, bro. We all love you. And totally, everyone here is having such a good time. Biggest smiles on their face. So thank you for everything, and thank you for providing a model of the globe, because it looks so good. I'm finally a believer.
I know that is the best model.
Oh, but like you were saying, you said I was ambidextrous as a child. That's not true.
Yeah,
you still ambidextrous. Well, you just
exactly. Yes. Yeah, and what happened through that process was, what happened with the process is I was relearning to be, like you say, to be natural. I was relearning through this process, and like you're saying, what I found is it starts. Remember, the term shalom means completeness, to be in a complete state, and I reasoned that I could not be in a state of shalom if I was all limpy on my left side. And I can tell you now, I'll be doing chores, and it has to be forced. You have to tell yourself, okay, let's do this task left-handed now. It'll be slower, it'll be more tedious, but we must get this done. And now I'll be doing a task and I'll tell myself, okay, you better switch to the left hand, and I'll look down and it's been my left hand the entire time.
Oh man, I'm just so I'm spitting gravy here. Michelangelo, when he was painting the Sistine Chapel and one hand got tired, he would just move the stick over to his left. And so
That's right.
The first week I started using my left hand. Ladies and gentlemen, my dreams turned into 8-hour matinees of movies I'd never seen. The most creative, crazy, lucid dreaming I've ever had in my life. The very first week I started using my left hand. Also, parents pretty well off, have not a lot of nice art. I'd be walking through their home and I just stop and I'd stare at a painting that I'd walked by for 3 years. And I'd say, what is going on here? And I'd get all close to it and everything. And also, the way I listen to music, I'd hear Journey, Don't Stop Believing, and I'd just start crying. And I'm like, dude, where has this been my whole life? I'm so in touch with creative, my artistic, intuitive, emotional, compassionate side of my brain. What was that turned off my entire life by using my hand only for 25 years? And it says in the Brave New World that they want future generations to not care about nature, to not love nature, to not know anything about nature. Because once you realize how great God is, because once you realize how great Yah is, because his qualities are clearly seen in nature, so they hide nature with the heliocentric model. Work at Amazon your entire life. Be a battery we suck energy from.
Yep.
And you end up just completely lost, completely in the matrix. And that's what we're on this Clown World tour. It's trying to wake up, meet people similar to Just Jack, similar to you, Mr. C. Love to come. If you're in the U.S. and you want to hang out with us, you have to email me a phone number and a city that you're in so I can call you and vet you and make sure you're not trolling. So, but yeah, I just, the left hand, bro, Karen had a son who was 11 years old and was saying the funniest duck jokes. It was hilarious, bro. We got the RV stuck in the middle of the road and blocked traffic on both ways. And he comes rolling up around the corner and says, oh man, this is worse than the duck suit thing. I was rolling on the floor laughing, bro. I could not believe it. Oh, he's a sharp kid, man. Must be very.
I want to hear. Yeah.
You got to add two more.
Kids means baby goats, and it goes back to they would be called that when they were like
they were insulting misbehaved children as sons about it, so they would call them kids.
Right. So we flipped and logos has just disappeared. But so what I found real interesting, and you mentioned earlier the diet thing, right? Well, the one that's gonna spiral in the chat. I don't know why you're here. You're in the wrong saloon. We should talk about diet. This is a big deal, and I want to hear what y'all have to say. I'm just gonna sit this one out like I have been. What exactly your take on basically feeding the meat suit, the vampire, this lust for blood, and what originally was, and then we can maybe steer towards, well, how was it originally prior to the fall, and how this all ties into where we should aim to get to.
Well, I mean,
or where we're going.
Yeah, it clearly shows in Genesis 1 that what grows is to be food for us and for the animals, and that it says that in the end that we return to paradise. Paradise is the Greek word paradisio, which means garden. It's all going back to the garden. So eventually we're all going to be raw vegans. However, I'm not there yet. I'm going to be honest here. I have some meat left in freezers that we're going to use up, and we're transitioning. We're no longer purchasing meat anymore. So our whole.
Hey, can I interject real quick?
Shoot.
Yeah, well, let's real quick, since everybody was quick to look this up last time, go ahead and look up the etymology of the word meat. M-E-A-T.
And by the way, meat sacrifice in Torah is actually grain sacrifice.
Right, you're getting it, because the Catholics changed the word of the meaning of the word meat back in the 12th century somewhere. And
Right.
just put a prefix on it of flesh, and then dropped it 100 years later, and now everybody thinks MEAT doesn't mean the meat or the when you chew.
Basically.
Yes, when you chew wheat, So if I go out and I get wheat berries and I throw them in my mouth and I chew, 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 it starts to develop the gluten, and modernly we call it farmer gum is one of the names, right? So when you're a kid, yeah, when you're a kid, you can go out in the field, and Yeshua certainly did the same thing. And so
You
as
keep saying
vegans,
the K word, Mr. C.
what's that?
Sorry. You keep saying the K word, and then we
I
have
keep saying
Jack.
child in the background.
Jack over here triggered going,
Oh,
child. And
oh
correcting you.
yes.
That's okay.
Well,
you as a
well,
child goes out and grabs the wheat berries.
But
well,
it's an item of food. I looked it up.
yeah,
It's an item of food. Etymology.
well, to be accurate, I guess if we were to call little children kids because they jump around like little goats, I wouldn't disagree. So that could be the etymology as well. But anyway, so what you're seeing there is this is biblical archaeology, where you do things modernly in experience and experiment to try to prove them out biblically, right? So we can go and we can experience.
Here's another one. Yeah, here's another big one where they say, "Do not." The King James says, "Do not take my name in vain." That word "vain" to us means looking in the mirror and loving ourselves. Where vain literally means to nothingness, to wasting away to nothing.
Yeah. Yep. Naught. Yeah, not exactly. To nothing. Yep. Yeah. So what you
translate to vain being, look in the mirror.
So as far as diet goes and looking at meat, so the original idea was the meat of the head of the grain. So when you're chewing chew and you add saliva, which is water, you eat all the proteins off of the grain and you're left with gluten or seitan, right? Or seitan. So all this vegan wheat gluten stuff is meat in the real literal sense. The wheat gluten that develops into Play-Doh and kind of tastes like Play-Doh is meat, M-E-T-E. So dead flesh, they changed the definition again. That's the danger and the pitfall of having a language that is changeable. That is why it is the language of confusion, because Latin, negra, is always going to mean one thing, right? Black. And there's no changing it. There's no fixing it. It's why biology, science. Dick.
Yeah, we lost you, dude.
Oh, are you there?
We lost you. You said biology and science.
Oh, okay. So all of the things we use for this magic today, this sorcery, truly is all derived from changes to words, because there was one Catholic priest scientist that changed the definition of alchemy to chemistry, because no way, specifically with the way Christianity was in the 1800s, would parents let their children go to alchemy class. But chemistry class is cool.
And this is what we deal with. Austin and I have been dealing with the Globers for 4 years. Is they literally tell you that Coriolis means not moving above the surface of the earth. They literally tell you level means it's curving down in all directions. So they'll tell you that the gas law happens sometimes, but the second law of thermodynamics is not a law, even though it happens all the time. I mean,
yeah, it's cognitive dissonance across the board.
Yeah.
And it's sorcery because they're changing words. I want to know the etymology of the word sorcery, because I think the meaning of it would just be changing words and making up the real
source,
the source of things. Sorcery, exactly. Changing the source. There you go.
Yeah,
that's exactly
it. This all ends up being a mental disorder, guys, because when you figure out that the nerdy kid that was always in the dictionary, or the nerdy kid that was always researching or whatever, Yeshua said, "Be like Nachash." Okay, Nachash is the serpent or the wizard from the beginning. He's the one that deceived and tricked the woman, right? And he says to be like Nachash. Well, was he saying to go be a sorcerer and a wizard and cast spells and run havoc and do all these things? He's saying to learn it so you can avoid it, so you can see it, so you can see the man behind the curtain pulling the knobs. the more I study modern law, the less effect it has on me, because I see where it's all written written for the dead man, written for a straw man that they strapped everybody with at birth. And it's really actually comical and silly and sad, actually. But let's get back to diet, though. I saw he was sharing meat there. Let's talk about meat some more. So, excuse me. So if we talk about meat, meat means feed, fodder, green, grass, grain. Now, only cognitive dissonance and food will not allow you to go look at these words and for you to accept the fact that you have been lied to make you be meat centric. I mean, and look that up if you would like, but to be dead flesh centric and be trained from youth to consume death like it's going out of style. Are we going to McDonald's? Are we going to this restaurant? You know?
Oh, every meal.
Every meal.
And
Every
Mr.
meal.
C, question. Mr. C, one of my best arguments, okay, because it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, it's what's come out. So I'm not saying you're a bad person, you eat whatever you want, right? The Bible says a man returns to his folly as if a dog returns to his vomit.
Mm-hmm. Did I lose you?
Oh, Mr. C, are you there?
Mr. C?
Yeah, I'm still here, guys.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, praise Yah.
Yeah, not sure what happened there. I'm not going to just default blame the grapplers, but we should be good to go. So sorry about the interruption.
I got right that time.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this meat issue. So, the reason that I can remember, I'm in my 40s all the time being a kid and seeing that old lady, and she's like, "Where's the beef?" And you're like clapping like an idiot. Yeah, where is the beef? Right?
Beef. It's what's for dinner.
And then you join FFA and they show you how to raise all that good pork, and they show you how to raise them chickens and
got milk.
Pig, pork, the other white meat.
Right, the other white meat. So, if you study the Torah though, and you go back and you look at what Yod He Wah He likes, let me preface. So people might be confused by me actually saying the letters. So let's just clarify, because this has been a thing in Hebrew roots and throughout all the religious stuff when it comes to the Creator's name, right? So if I go into an airport, right, and I'm looking for Steve,
ATL.
right? Steve, right? And I don't know if or let's make it a little more complicated with English. Let's say it's Stephen, Stephen, or is it Stefan?
Stefan. Jack.
Could be Stefan. So I go in the airport and I'm unsure. So I'm holding my sign. And how do I get that gentleman's attention? I simply spell it correctly. Stephen. Are you here? And now there is no pronunciation issue because I've spelled it correctly. And so I say Yod He Wah He, because there's no problem.
I agree with that, but I find the short form or the poetic form of Yah
Sure.
is acceptable across the board as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I have learned to do it to diffuse people that want to
I
argue
understand
about vowels.
Trust me, I know. I know.
Yeah. And so, you know, you'll hear me say yod hey wah hey. So, you know, this whole thing about food, you know, he's very clear about fatlings. Well, what's a fatling? Darn it, you might need a dictionary. Well,
Right.
everybody, real quick, somebody look up fatling.
I got a screen share. Just a second.
Don't let them see your address. Streaming address.
Oh, can they? No, it's just this one. All right, there you go. A young animal that has been fattened in readiness for slaughter.
He's displeased by the raising of fatlings.
Ooh. So are you saying that they're raising fatlings? And you know what's funny is I got introduced to Flat Earth by B.O.B. and he's got a song saying food pyramid was a lot. Are you saying the food pyramid's a lot?
Everything's a lie.
Continuation of the food pyramid.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So if you were to say this fatling word modernly, we would all understand farm animal. And so what he's saying is, you know, let's look at one of the condemnations as the mixed multitude was coming out of Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
The first thing that they start to do is they're like, where is the flesh pots of Mitzrayim? We want the herbs. We want the soup.
Just to clarify things to people, Mitzrayim is what they changed to Egypt, and he's corrected to mixed multitude. It wasn't just Israel that was coming out. There was people that saw the power of the Creator and left with them. So that's
correct.
Mixed multitude out of Mitzrayim. Go ahead, brother.
Correct. So as this mixed multitude, let's disperse Manhattan. Okay, so we disperse Manhattan. You're going to get all kinds of flavors and diversities and backgrounds. That was Mitzrayim. You know, Israel had been there for a while. You know, it was a mixed place. It was a big city. And so, as Just Jack was saying, when Yod Hey Wah Hey showed his power and wrecked their business, lots and lots of folks fled to the north. A lot of people say the Phoenicians fled out of that destruction. And then people went south. And of course, that multitude went into the wilderness. And some of the first stuff they start to do is complain about food and eating. And so they get this idea about sacrificing, and they're like, so this God's like cool with sacrifices. Well, let's take this lamb, let's drag it up to the top of this hill, cut its head off, and we have a barbecue. And Yod Hey Wah Hey stops them preemptively and says, we're not going to stop at every high place so you guys can have a barbecue and say, praise me, this is for you. Because if you go back and look at even the temple, there was very, 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 very specific rules about the eating of dead flesh. Very specific. And, you know, a lot of the stuff, you know, let's bring up fish. So I'll get from a lot of people a lot of times, you know, oh, what about fish? Jesus ate fish. No, correction, he never did eat any fish. But he was around fish eating. He participated in feeding people dead fish, and so on and so forth. He didn't ever go out and walk on the water and cut their nets and like punch them in the mouth and be like, fish are people too, you know? Because let's be honest, he was there for bigger fish to fry. Okay. He was the fisher of men. So imagine the importance of what you're eating every day, right? Whether it's, you know, you're having frog one day, you're having snails the next. Imagine the importance of what a vampire eats. Imagine the importance of Yeshua coming down to give hope to the vampires that, hey, it's okay. There's, you know, this is getting fixed. We're in the plan now. We're taking action. But is what you eat here going to limit you in the kingdom? Perhaps, but I don't think so. What's going to limit you is that we're being actively watched, and they're seeing which of the fallen, which of the vampires are not acting vampire-y. Hey, why is this one trying to follow a Shabbat even though he's doing it on the wrong day, perhaps? But who cares? That one's trying to do Shabbat. This one has Tzitzit. This one is talking about the flat plane instead of this made up globe of deception, right? Did I lose you guys? I guess I get to entertain everybody. Looks like everybody can hear me, but nobody else. So, the reality of flesh eating goes back to an inherent falling away of these things that everybody gets downloaded to or into at birth.
Okay,
There you guys. You guys must be back, hey?
Sorry, Nathan's trying to
He
work
keeps touching
computer, but
buttons.
he's
Austin was using the restroom, and I was trying to work the screen, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm super sorry. All things work towards good
All right.
for those that love God. So anyone who's mad at me,
left
you know.
here, left here. Yeah.
So everyone who's mad at me needs to apologize for being in sin.
All right.
Because
So
all things work towards good.
So Leviticus doesn't say you must eat meat, and therefore you must eat these types of meat. And what it does say is that if you're going to eat meat, in other words, if you haven't gotten to that place where you don't eat meat, then these are the meats you're allowed to have. If it's a land animal, you have a split it has to have a split hoof that chews the cud. If it's a sea animal, it has to have fins and scales.
Well, correction. If it said meat, wouldn't it be talking about feed and fodder? So you have to be very.
I'm talking about
right.
land animals.
I understand what you're talking about, but we have to understand as well the context of the situation. And was he giving permission to eat clean and unclean animals there? I would encourage you to go back and do a very intensive study in the Hebrew that's used there. To the point that if there was any eating going on there of dead flesh, I've calculated that stuff would have been underwater for 155 consecutive days. So nothing green would have been growing. Nothing would have been around. It would have been, I'm assuming that their box would have had provisions for that time. But, the first thing that Noah did when he got out of the box or the ark was he went and planted a grape vineyard so he could get plowed. But it takes 3 years for a good profitable vineyard to
No. He planted the vineyard, and then the same day he got drunk and naked. That's what I heard in church. So
the same day. It was like one of those magic vineyards where it's like a stock.
Right.
So, but he wanted to get plowed pretty bad, I assume, from his PTSD, because none of us can imagine going through what he went through. Let's be honest.
Yeah, after the earth got flooded out, it was probably pretty gnarly looking for a while.
Oh, it would have been moonscaped, man, and stuff would have been different. The sea levels maybe would have been deeper. Yeah. So,
what does moonscape mean?
What's that?
What does moonscape mean?
Moonscape? It means nothing's there.
Well, I agree with that.
It's not there at all. Yeah.
My mind just melted out of my ears. What do you mean it's not there?
Oh, the Torah is really clear about this stuff, guys. It even warns us about what's the cyclical garbage that we're going through now. It says, hey, the stars are up here and things, but if you look too closely, you might get compelled to worship them. What keeps happening cyclically?
Every song.
we
About
keep
stars.
looking up at these stars and they're supernaturally communicating. What do you think all these satellites and stuff these clowns are using, right?
Don't forget, we
Wow.
worship rock stars here too.
Exactly,
Oh,
exactly.
Stars, dude, that's good. That's gravy.
That was revealed to me in the dark side.
Or superstars. Movie stars.
I can't remember which writing it's in, so forgive me, but it talks that when stars wanted to come down and possess somebody, that they would choose a woman because they would hurry themselves to a brothel because sexual pleasure as a woman is quote unquote famous in the second dimension. So really, 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 as things go right now, we are operating with less than 4% of the information that we really need to make solid decisions on anything, right? So, but luckily for us, we're actively in the revealing. We are in the revelation right now.
Here.
And so
it's increasing, and the darkness will come to light. Yeah, all this is happening now for sure.
And the word apocalypse isn't some crazy war where everyone dies. It's just
right.
the unveiling,
it means uncovering
truth.
Yeah, revealing.
So,
yep.
Mr. C, you said you don't know where you read it about the stars coming down, but I know where you read it. It's on the sidewalk in Hollywood.
Yeah, probably. Well, think about it. Like, so Beyonce says that when she's up on stage, she gets taken over by Rachel or whoever takes her over, and she's like
Fierce. Sasha Fierce. And
yeah,
Katie says she sold her soul to the devil to become famous. Literally
yeah.
says that.
So, and let's look at the Hebrew definition of soul. I was just covering this with my son today. So in Hebrew, the soul is triune. So it's the mind, or us, the eternal, the animating breath that allows the carcass to breathe in and out and to not lose the breath, but it continues. And then the meat suit. So it's triune. So if you sell your soul, what you're saying is I'm selling my mind, my breath, and my body to this.
This is where we got into some real gravy earlier too when it comes to the breath, right? So pre-fall, did we have to breathe? Maybe you want to expand on that. I don't want to undermine.
Also,
this is one of Jack's deeper thoughts, okay? Let's not take this as scriptural truth. This is just one of Jack's deep thoughts, okay? I've had some experiences where when I was close to the Creator, I actually was glowing, okay? And it was a white hue. And I had this thought that before we became these meat suits, that we didn't need oxygen in our blood. Red blood cells cause the body to need oxygen in the blood, and white blood cells heal. And maybe the white blood cells is our real blood, and the red blood cells is from our meat suit blood. Basically, that was it.
What's your take on that?
Well, look at oxygen. Anything that becomes oxidized, as I air quote, starts to break down into its constituent.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we're breaking down. But then I would argue, do we filter oxygen or do we filter nitrogen? Because the atmosphere is greater nitrogen.
They lie about that stuff too, that we breathe oxygen. It's crazy.
Right. So yeah, so we live in upside downville, and the only thing that will save you, you are who you've been waiting for. Jesus Christ is not coming to save you. Yeshua is not coming to save us. His name means salvation, or at least in part, but he was trying to tell everybody, hey, you're who you've been waiting for. You're going to self-save.
I agree.
It's ridiculous. Yes, it's ridiculous to sit on your thumb and wait for him to float out of the sky to magically lasso you out of trouble.
And those who endure till the end shall be saved, not those who say a prayer.
That's right.
Exactly. Going to heaven.
That's right. Exactly. And let's address heaven real quick. He said that he was the only one to ever come down and the only one to ever go back up, and that the Rachia, or Rachia Shemayim, is not made for us. We are made for the ground. That's why we're grounded, right? It's literally him saying, you're grounded.
Right.
And then, we're supernatural. We're above nature when we fly. And so everything is a limit and boundary here. You know, we can only take so much pressure. If you study vacuums, which you should, everybody here should study vacuums so you can understand vacuums. But if you, which is just lack of gas,
Or
it's the missing the fluid medium. So what happens is that as we're in maximum security prison, how do I know? Well, I know that he has employed things that keep us in. Number one, we can only, I think, take down to, I think, 10 psi, and then we die painfully. That's not a huge loss of pressure. Okay. So the higher we go, the less pressure we have, and the more we want to die or freeze to death. The more we go out to the outer ring, the more cold it is and inhospitable. It's a big outer wall. There are boundaries and limits set on us for a reason. And did Nimrod know that? Because Nimrod turned into Gibborim, he turned superhuman, and maybe it was because he was looking for a way out of the dome. But good luck, pal.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're still trying to do this. I think this is part of like this Gnostic esoteric belief system, is that they can actually manipulate their density versus via alchemy of oneself to actually penetrate the containment.
And Hillary said we still haven't broken this really high glass ceiling.
Yeah, the glass ceiling.
One day we will.
There's about 1 million cracks in it.
Million cracks in it.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, of course, I came into truth by way of, you know, the first thing that I heard from the Creator is, how are you going to do what I want you to do if you don't know who I am? Wow. And I thought that meant that was Satan testing my faith, blah, 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 because that's how I used to believe. But then when it kept repeating and I kept rejecting it, and it kept getting louder, then I realized he's saying, no, you really don't know who I am. And this led me to finding out that his name was taken out of scriptures nearly 7,000 times in the Old Testament alone, you know, and then you go down this rabbit hole. And then when I came to Flat Earth, it was easy for me. In 6 hours, you know, after watching a video for 6 hours, I knew it was true, because those who have a love of the truth will be led into all truth. The Spirit of truth will lead you into all truth. And that's why I believe these flat earthers who are really open-minded and really willing to look at the scriptures without religion, they're going to come to the same truth eventually as well.
Hey, can we address a question real quick from in the chat from Jackie J? She says, "Why were we cast into prison, though?"
Mr. Steve, please do.
Tree of knowledge of good and evil, yo.
Well, let's assume that our falling or our tainting was maybe even after that, because remember, guys, it's written that if they had written down everything about Yeshua's life, the book would be unreadable. We get snapshots, little tiny snapshots.
Yeah, the earth would not be able to contain all the books, is what John said.
Absolutely, that's right. You would be unreadable. It'd be, you know, good luck with that. And so there's, remember, the Elohim think that we reason like children. So if the only thing that we can ever accomplish here is childlike reasoning, then that should really set you in extreme humility. So let's go back to Jackie's question. Why were we cast into prison, though? Well, if you're riding around in a vampire or a tainted being, and there's a possibility that it could spread, maybe there's outer lands. Maybe the dome is a lot bigger than we think, and we're just in this inner ring and in a form of quarantine. We don't know yet. The ruling elite won't let us go to test our limits and boundaries. But really, the answer is simple. Yeshua said it simply. Guys, you're not getting out. You have to spill your blood into the soil. The blood will be purified, and then you can have a second go. And where is the second go? Well, let's go to when he's with the two criminals. When the criminal realized that he was an eternal being, that he had lived his life wrongly in a criminal way, he had been completely asleep, a real ding-dong. What did Yeshua tell him? He said, when you next realize it, you will be with me in Eden. The Garden of Eden is the garden of pleasure and delight from the beginning. Right. This is oral. This whole thing is Bill Murray's Groundhog Day. We're living in an iteration of a cyclical behavior that was set in motion from the beginning, that began, believe it or not in the garden, and it didn't even begin, in my opinion, with the two brothers, with Cain and Habel. It began with the jealousy between darkness and light. Darkness was made first, and yet it produced nothing, and it was given a shot to be down here. Remember, it says darkness was in the beginning, and the text doesn't say that it's just this thing. Oh, it's just darkness. No, it's an entity. And then when light was created, production happened, things happened, stuff started to grow.
Establishment.
Right. So
Okay, we got a question in our house.
Ladies and gentlemen, I had someone hit us up, say I want to meet you on the tour. He's literally sitting in the RV with us right now. He hooked us up, supported what he likes. I really appreciate you, bro. And he's got a wife who's 7 months pregnant. Please pray for their baby, pray for a safe delivery and all that. But we have a question from Homeboy. Please, what's the question?
Amen. But my question to that is, so to tack on to what you're talking about as far as being in a prison and all and such, what that viewer was questioning. My thing is it really a prison, or is it actually beautiful, and should we show gratitude?
Preach. I love that.
Because
I like Mark Sargent's thing. It's not really a prison because it's too good.
It's too beautiful in reality.
And it's not really heaven because there's struggle. So it's more like an education program.
It's more an education.
Guys, there's, I believe it's in Hanak, or it's one of the other writings, that it says that there's this interaction supposedly between God, right, and Hanak, and he says, imagine this reality is a narrow path with water on one side and fire on the other. This is I don't know how many times that we're given a picture of purification. This is a opportunity coming up here for all of us, our life, how we live our life, how we are. The condition of our heart is inconsequential. We're in a vampire. We're in something that wants to go around and do all the naughty things that you do in a dumpster fire.
Right, and this may be one of those things the carnal mind sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. One of those things the carnal mind may try to understand that they can't, but I can't help but want to know, or whatever. We're trying to figure out, right? So before we become vampires, if you will, and we're in this, meat suit that's pre-fall, like what exactly was our life force? Because we're consistently compared to trees, and of course, water is their life force, or basically their blood. Do you think there's any possibility that prior to the flood, or prior to the fall, and where we had to be clothed, well, maybe with literal flesh, that's when our life force changed to blood?
Or we didn't even have a body that needed blood, guys.
Exactly.
Our spirit being moved through the moist, ethereal realm that God had created.
So the way I think of it is the way we would use the term today is metaphysical experience, right? So you could interact with the physical realm, but you could also move freely through the unseen existence. That's basically what I figured it to be.
And that's how you travel through walls and stuff.
And
let's look at Yeshua. Guys, let's look at Yeshua. Didn't he say that we get hooked up with one of his models, right?
Yeah, he can walk through walls, ascend into heaven, he can fly. So if you've ever
right.
If you've ever
hold on. He didn't just walk through walls. You got to get the whole perspective here. He knocked on the door, they wouldn't answer, so he walked through the wall, and then he said, put your fingers in these holes. So he went from physical to non-physical to physical.
So did it take a little bit to recognize him, though? Was he not quite the same model he was before?
Yeah, it seemed to be a little bit harder for them to recognize him.
That's right, a little bit harder.
But it also, even Moses, when he went up on the mountain to talk with Yah, he'd come down and he'd transfigure, and he'd have to cover his face.
He had horns. Now the Talmud and the Ravi or the Ravi or rabbis, they will say, oh no, he had horns of power, horns of light, and there wasn't real horns. Well, I don't know. It says horns, so maybe the dude grew horns.
Could be. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that when you get that in close and in touch with Yah, you will be transfigured. I don't know if you've heard this one before, but it's pretty interesting to look at. You know the story of Gideon? So Gideon's this like shepherd dude, never been in battle before. An angel appears to him and he says, "You're going to wipe out the whole army, the evil army." And Gideon's like, "Well, I don't believe it. Let me test to see if it's Yah." First, he throws out a fleece, and the fleece was wet and the ground was dry. And then the reverse, he tested him again. And then when he realized that Yah was sending him, the King James says, "And the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon." If you look at that in Hebrew, it literally says, "And Yah put Gideon on." So he's not the same Gideon anymore.
Wow, it's wild.
You guys should go back and talk and look at how the tabernacle was made. There was no man or woman living that had the knowledge necessary in order to make the sweet tent that the Creator wanted to come chill in. So he literally downloaded the information into one dude that apparently had a carcass that could handle that kind of download.
Yep.
We are more Star Trek and sci-fi than we want to admit.
Right. And the only reason we don't know that is because we're told that we're limited.
Yes.
Right?
Are you saying that we don't live on a spinning tilted ball? We live in a Super Bowl, which will be in Tampa?
I'm saying, guys, this is not our time. I'm saying if you're in a dumpster fire and you're in a maximum security prison, except you're grateful every day for the Jello that the prison gives you, that gratitude inside that prison will be permeable, and you'll be able to be plucked out as wheat and not a tare.
Right.
Because if everybody's wearing a pyre, everybody's in a fallen state, right? How does the Creator discern between us except by behavior?
Here.
That's it. If everybody's in a dead and dying carcass that is irredeemable,
faith
right?
without works is dead.
Dead, right? So it's, people are like, "Oh, works don't save you." Well, I mean, okay, so if you're drowning in the river and I throw you a flotation device and you work to go get it, that's not, works isn't saving you. See, people are so confused and dumbed down about words overall that they don't understand that this whole thing is about self-salvation. This whole thing is about, he says there's a path for you to run down. I'm not going to put you in a wheelchair and practice some form of socialism and give you lollipops the whole way. This is us trying to discern if you deserve eternity. Do you guys, why do you think in 1 Timothy the Creator lists such stringent rules to get into his private club? No unclean thing will enter his kingdom, by no means.
For something to be inherently perfect, like anything contrary to that would actually cause it to cease to exist. It's one of those questions I never understood from atheists, even when I was, drowned in churchiology, was like, dude, you can't understand everything, but it's actually all very simple. And it comes into the fact that you have to humble yourself. You know what I'm saying? It isn't much more complicated than that. It's just like, if you don't fully humble yourself and continue to work and grow, then you'll never find it.
Do you know why the mixed multitude had, well, there was two reasons given. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh gave two reasons why the mixed multitude had to wander around in the countryside for 40 years. My favorite is the one I'm going to tell you about. Any guesses first?
Why they had to wander?
Yeah, why he told them.
Well, one of them was they were afraid. They didn't go out when they were sent out.
They didn't trust.
That's maybe like a B model. Like, he gives two very specific points, and I'll give you my favorite one. Sure. He said, the fighting men of Mitzrayim, or the fighting men of Egypt, were so contrary and back talking and back speaking and mumbling and whispering and non-listening that it took 40 years for the last one of them to die. Now you can come into the land.
Right. Yeah, they had to purge themselves of all their indoctrination.
He said, guys, look at a map. Guys, everybody gather around, look at a map. Look how far it is from the land to Mitzrayim. He said, I'd have you that. I'd have you there inside a week. Inside a
It's
week.
hilarious. Yeah, when I first saw that,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that until a few weeks ago. I was like,
4
dude, that
years.
is such a short distance. They just aimlessly wandered around like they were hammered.
But Mr.
He
C,
didn't- he-
we're all
But
dumb
he
flat
led-
earthers.
But he led them. He led them with a pillar of smoke and a pillar of fire to keep them
Distract,
in the wilderness.
lost. Right.
But Mr.
So-
C, you said look at a map. We're dumb flat earthers. We don't have a map. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we don't have a model.
We know the distance, and it should have taken a week. It took these clowns 40 years, and these are God's chosen people.
Yeah.
Well, no, they weren't. They weren't. So the deal is they were a mixed multitude. So what he was saying is, hey guys, I'm giving all y'all, because I created everybody. Wink, wink. I'm going to give all of you an opportunity to learn my Torah, and they all sucked at it.
They all suck.
It's
at
true.
it. Wow.
Right. It's just been.
Too
Yeah,
funny.
I lost my training earlier, but it's just inherent perfection, right? So like, I've always simply say we've been lied to about what heaven is, whatever. But if you go to heaven, if you hate God, you don't have any respect for the Torah or for His guidelines. You couldn't be allowed in the presence of Yah because, which I actually said God, my bad, but because it would no longer, it would cease to be exist as inherent perfection. If you follow what I'm saying, right? So like anything
That's what we're saying.
antithetical to that
And
would
if
taint
Yah
it.
is the existence and you get taken from him, then you cease to exist.
Well, you guys know that if
The second
if
death
you-
isn't burning in heaven or
Right.
hell
No,
forever.
it's delete.
It's literally delete. In
Control
my
Alt
opinion.
Delete in the
Control
software.
Alt Delete. So you got your reward. You got to live in your meat suit. You got to pretend you're cool on YouTube.
yeah, you
got
get your reward
Yeah,
now.
right.
Yeah.
Lots of super chats. You're the man. You send Nathan emails talking about how much money you make and how many subscribers you have, even though you're promoted and we're censored. You're just a clown in a meat suit. And so you got your reward. God's going to control alt delete you.
Yah is, yeah.
Y'all going to control alt delete you. Okay? And we will live in eternity with the creator of strawberries and dolphins and watermelons and elephants.
And if you all want to look at the
Okay.
King James for Control Delete, it's called blot out.
There you go.
Yeah, all our names are in the book of life. It says you blot your own name out by removing yourself from the book of life. So, and what does Santa do? The opposite. He makes a list and checks it twice. Well, let me tell you what. God already made his
Yeah.
list. Yeah. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get ripped. So the more I say the G word, I just got to do push-ups like a clown. But I promise I will get this down. And I'm a poet and I didn't even know it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's-
this thing, me and you, Mr. C, we've already been down this rabbit hole. And these people, if they're getting anything from this, is that all of these things are clearly revealed in Scripture. If you
Yep.
learn how to read it with discernment and studying and going through with the Strong's Concordance and dictionaries, you cannot trust what the pastors teach you because they do cut and paste sermons and they don't read to you from the book.
No, they do read to you from the book. That's the
Okay.
problem, because reading
great.
isn't studying, right?
I'm saying they don't
yeah.
read straight through it, man. They cut and paste.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, and no, again, in everything I say, I don't mean to offend anybody, but as we know, the truth offends people. And I come out of over 38 years of Christianity, born in it, seeped in it. Grandfather was a pastor and a deacon, right? So I can tell you with all honesty that no great movement of truth will ever come out of Christianity.
Yep.
But truth seekers will come out of Christianity.
Well said.
Yep, ditto.
I have a saying, dogs don't bark at parked cars. So if you get dogs, which is the opposite of God, which is fortune and luck, if you get them barking at you, don't feel bad. Rejoice, for great is your reward. He says, if you're cursed and reviled for my name's sake, not because you're an evil, corrupt Microsoft leader who invents diseases and then wants to jab people. If people hate you for that, I'm sorry, you're screwed. But if you're doing good and you love God and you're preaching the truth and you're going around sharing the truth, dogs don't bark at parked cars, guys. So be the change you want to see on flat Earth, and don't think that won't come without some pushback. But don't worry, it will sharpen you. It will make you better. So that's what I say to you guys.
I think the best thing for people to focus on, because uncertainty, people want security, people want answers, people want to be spoon-fed answers. Unfortunately, this world was manufactured out of Egypt. The clock, our time system, everything came out of Egypt to keep us well distracted, so we can't sit together and reason. We can't question things. Like, let me bring this up. I've been
saying that the reason that we said, okay, we're going to start the stream at some point tonight, and it's going to go on for however long it goes.
Right.
When you start, I mean, praise Yah, I was just fired recently because of lack of work, because now I can just take my time, get back in His Word, do some more digging, do some more yum, and, talk with like-minded individuals like yourself. And I don't have to look at a clock ever, It's ridiculous. The clock system is insane. It's so wrong.
It was manufactured for micro accountability to time, because your task master could say you have 30 minutes to complete this task. But if time was acknowledged like it is biblically, where it's day when the light starts and it's night when it's dark.
Right. Exactly. Right? Yom and Lila, Yom and Lila.
Yeah, so when it's daytime, I can say, okay, I'll be there in the morning, and you got to spread the weight, pal, because if I don't have a clock to look at, my idea. Now, we could come up with other agrarian systems and say, when the sun is 5 fingers above that mountain, I'll be here.
Sure.
And of course, that would be fairly accurate.
Before that, because they had the watches, right?
Sure.
The period of time that they have to watch, but it was based on what stars hit the horizon for the night watch, stuff like that.
Yes, it was all observable nature, and it wasn't this math, essentially.
Jack, I get to correct Jack here. Stars don't intersect the marine horizon because we live on a plane and stars vanish off in the distance.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. I just had to jump in there.
But the horizon's not physical, so it's all good.
It's not physical, but stars don't intersect it.
If
the Earth curved at 1.225,
when the star appears to intersect the horizon, okay.
But they really don't. If you watch time lapses of stars not appearing to intersect the marine horizon.
I think Nathan's point here is that when you actually, we go around, if you ask Globers to show you some footage of some time lapse where you actually see it even appear to intersect the marine horizon, you'll just get crickets and it'll never come back.
Yeah.
I love you, Jack.
It's true.
It's for the audience, guys. We don't live on a spinning ball. If the horizon was the curve of the Earth, stars would just be dropping off the sea.
True.
Going over the edge.
True.
But when I do time lapses for the last 5 years, because I actually do research and test all things, stars don't do that.
Right.
So the Earth is not a globe.
They go into a invisible
boundary of perception.
Yeah,
well, basically, I think it's either light attrition or the angle at which we can observe the stars is no longer visible,
or the atmo deck.
So we have light attrition. We obviously live in a medium. Light has to travel through that medium. Nothing they say makes any sense, because we're going to do some tests with light through gas or glass, or what are we doing? Whatever. We're on a gravy train.
Yeah. Off of that tangent, yes, everything was observable for time. Like I was trying to explain to these folks about the calendar, it's about the springtime at the first sighting of the moon after the maiden with grain in her hand. In every culture, she's shown as a maiden with grain in her hand. She's called Virgo for most of you people. And when she does a turn in the night and starts putting the grain down before her feet, then the spring harvest comes, and it's the beginning of the year. It has nothing to do with December 30, or I don't even remember what it is anymore. December 31st.
Hey, Jack.
Right?
Jack.
Yeah.
Jack, let me interject, and I'm gonna destroy your worldview one more time. You ready?
Yeah, shoot.
Okay, so spring and fall don't exist in the Torah anywhere.
No. There's only 2 seasons.
Oh, right. So there's summer and there's winter, right?
You guys, this is what's happening. You guys are just ladling such intense gravy. You're like, oh yeah, you're like 15 steps back. So wait, bring it back here. All right. Okay, so we know that the year, December 31st, all this nonsense is just stupid. And actually the year begins when life begins to grow. But what is this about? There's no spring or fall. Exactly.
There's the early rains and the latter rains, the early harvest and the latter harvest. There's only 2 seasons in a year.
Well, basically, what I would say is there's only 2 ways the sun moves: southern declination,
Exactly,
and northern declination.
Exactly, and that's why there's no such thing as spring and fall in the southern, because it's still early and latter rains in the south.
So at any given time, ladies and gentlemen, the sun is either moving closer to you or moving away from you.
Wait, are you trying to say that the scriptures and the manuscripts written like thousands of years ago are more accurate than the pseudoscientists now?
Oh, definitely, 100%.
So there's only 2 seasons, and the year starts in the wrong time of year.
Okay, so let me interject real quick that I personally believe that I'm fairly close. I don't think it's perfect, but I am fairly close to the Genesis calendar, or what I call that.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that you have to look at, again, like Jack is saying, you have to look at the roots of matters to figure out what's going on.
Right.
So you have to look at the Gregorian calendar. We all know it's pagan and it's Thursday and Wednesday, which is Odin, blah, 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 right?
Yep.
So it's a Phoenician calendar, big surprise. But why did it get switched to the Gregorian? Well,
You mean Pope
Gregory.
Pope Gregory the Dragon?
Yeah, when you look at old Greg's reason, why did Greg say that they changed the calendar? Do you remember?
Yeah,
I thought it was unification.
Well, we had to add leap years because we're on a spinning ball orbiting the sun.
No. It's much easier. It was a very simple answer. He said with the Julian calendar, they were experiencing too much equinoxial drift.
Right.
There you go.
Wow.
And you go, well, wait a second. If the Catholics are following the equinox, maybe it's real time. Sorry to anybody that's slow out there, but it's frustrating for me, because if we just slow down and we just listen and look and learn a little bit and watch our surroundings, we will see that they give us the answers to the truth.
Right.
And so we know.
The problem is, Mr. C, is that you and I are the type of people that we want to know the roots of things. We want to know where things originate, so we know if it's right or not. Most of these, a lot of people, okay, let me not globalize it, get it globalized. Right. But a lot of people are like, well, I'm not really that interested. But the fact of the matter is if you know that you're being lied to about everything, they're lying for a reason. They're hiding truth for a reason. So you should do your due diligence to seek out the truth.
That's right.
Imagine being so naive. Imagine being so naive. You think all the elite would always tell me the truth. You know, like there's a bug floating around in the air.
But like the point here,
the
point here being like the motivation, right? Like this was the big red pill for me. I know a lot of people maybe in the chat that are going to see this, they can relate to what happened to me. I raised up Baptist. The church theology, the doctrine of men has nothing to do with the original scripts. They skip over everything, don't believe in it. And so that's the way that they associate all of anything to do with Yeshua, right? And it's because they've been indoctrinated with false beliefs, and I think this was set up. But I didn't realize this at a young age, and most people don't. So why would they? But then when I got older and I was like, okay, I need to swallow my pride. But I used to say, this is my phrase, there's 4,200 religions and yours is the right one, right? So I went and researched them. And then what you find out is there's a very concerted effort to hide the truth about Yeshua, what his true name was, when he was truly born, what the true scriptures are, what the true context of them are. And that they have all these grabber tricks where they can just change like one word or one verb agreement, subject-verb agreement from the Hebrew. And then you find out that what's the Hebrew? And then we have all kinds of translations with this and all kinds of grabble even with what we think that the original language was. And why would you go through so much effort to hide if there wasn't something of extreme value there they don't want you to find?
Right.
Gravy, bro. Were you rapping that entire time?
Yeah. But basically, that's all I'm saying. If you're being honest, if you're being intellectually honest, there has to be something of extreme value here to the people that they don't want them to get their hands on.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
you guys, it's the creator. They don't want you to see the footstool. They don't want you to see.
That's why I go around telling everyone about flat Earth, because Jesus said, if you don't understand the earthly things,
how can you understand heavenly things?
How can you understand the heavenly things? If you don't understand the earthly things, how can you drop down and do a bunch of push-ups because you keep saying the G word?
Hey, wait, you said that they don't want you to see the creator's footstool, huh?
That's right. You know, I didn't get to send it to Nathan, but I was actually working on a meme I found, and it's a totally real picture of a what are they called? Oh, the guys that go up in space. Oh, an astronaut, not an astro, an astronaut.
Yeah.
Yeah, of one of those guys or gals above the planet with a sign. They're doing a spacewalk, and it says, "I see no God up here."
Yeah.
Of course. Astronaut. Think about that. What if it's a nautical? Astronautical. So they're in the sky and they're in water.
The point.
We all live in a yellow submarine, water above, water below. So astronautical, which is funny because they literally fake space in pools, guys.
Yeah.
In pools.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, just jumping in on Tom here, as far as like the day, like Genesis 1 says, he called the light Yom and the darkness he called Lila. It's very distinctive. The day is the light time, the night is the dark time.
Yeah, he named Choshek Laila. So
Right.
it's and that's where people miss that too, is he literally
Gave it a title.
was naming them. Yes, they were like Chuck. This is Barry. This is Bob.
Right, exactly. And there's
So,
other things for the context. Sorry, bro. Just for the context of what he was responding to, there's a comment, right? There's a chat, and it says, "I would love to know the true calendar in Shabbat. I've been using Friday sundown to Saturday sundown." I remember we had been discussing that earlier,
right?
So I knew this would be a good. That's one of the major ones here to start it off, right?
Like light and dark. Let's get back to the equinox, and we can address that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, so that's exactly what I said, Mr. C, is like, why didn't they transliterate Yom instead of translate today? Because it says, and Yah called the light Yom. Okay, I'm okay with you translating light so we know what we're talking about, but he called it, he gave it a title, Yom.
Yeah.
And they changed it today.
Yeah. Well, why did they do any of it? Again, remember that. See, here's another thing. People that come out of Christianity, or people that I've talked to that were friends of mine that, were agnostic, I guess, they would say things like this: "How could you ever follow a God that would take a little baby and make it die?"
Oh, wow.
Right? Or something like that. To which I say, well, the creator I follow smashes people for eating birds, my guy. My creator can't hardly stand when people do stuff, and it's the Torah says his nostrils flare in anger, and then folks get smooshed.
He brings the Tov and the Ra.
Right. So they don't understand the character of the creator. They do not understand his character.
He's not a celestial Santa Claus. He's not there to grant your wishes. He's not.
No.
I Dream of Jeannie. Remember that show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And how many times does she blink? 3 times. How many evolutions are there for the vril? 3 times.
Wow.
So Austin, we'll have to do a show on the rule of 3. You'll really geek out on this. I'll break down phi and 1.618 and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I'm super down.
Bro, we gotta land this plane eventually, but if we want to talk for another hour, I'm cool with that too.
I'm getting hoarse. But it was awesome, Dr. C.
I'm getting donkey. I'm getting donkey myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not real hoarse, but
gotcha.
Mr. C, I have a question. Well,
sure.
Austin and I are on our Clown World tour.
Yeah.
Can we come hang out with you?
Sure.
All right, great. What state are you in?
Confused.
Montucky, northern Montucky.
In a state of Witsit.
Oh, Montucky. I heard it's beautiful there.
Montucky.
Is that Kentucky?
Yeah, it's the more redneck version of Montana.
All right. Oh, Montana. Well, actually, I have a friend who's a big supporter of what I do, Larry Robb. Sorry if I name drop you, Larry, but he's all over the place on the internet. He doesn't care. But he's on the border of the U.S. and Canada. And then JM Truth is right on the border of Montana and Canada, too. And Austin and I would love to go see the Northern Lights. So if we can come see you, bro, and it's in Pops, I didn't say the G word. It's in Pop's plan, Abba Father, our Father, the P word. I would love to see you, bro, and I have a feeling at the bottom of my heart,
and
Austin and I will end up with you. And if anyone wants to support the Clown World Tour, we're going to see Mr. C. So that's like one of the things we're trying to do on the bucket list. So I love
Yeah,
you guys.
I just want to throw this in there. If anybody has any more questions about the Sabbath or the feast, first things first, you wanted the bare bones, go to Leviticus 23, lays it out pretty clear, pretty simple. But if you want more details, go ahead and give me a email at justjackflatearth@gmail.com. All one word, justjackflatearth@gmail.
And also, guys, if you have any questions for like 5 minutes, Mr. C, can we answer questions from the chat? And Jack and Austin and me, if you have any questions for the next 5 minutes, what do you think? What do you guys think? Are you
I'm
cool
good
with
with
that?
that.
A little Q&A at the end of this gravy train to
Is that live?
answer anything you guys want to know. So, Mr. C, we're just, if there's any questions in the chat,
A little behind.
we'll
If
read
you
them
want to
out.
ask a question of somebody specific, put
Exactly.
Just
Tag-
Jack or Nathan
or Mr. C.
or Mr. C, whatever.
So, Mr. C, by the way, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, from Austin, Just Jack, me, Chris.
Nice to meet you, brother.
And we have also our friend Andrew, and whose wife is 7 months pregnant, and he stayed here the whole time, bro. I have to leave. Like, I have to just pray. Everyone in the chat, bro, real quick. So this is for the eyes and ears, bro. Please, Father, watch over his 7-month-old son who's in the womb. Daughter. So, do you have a name yet?
Lila.
Lila. Hey there,
Start time.
Lila. Okay, so just in your prayers, keep them in mind. And what's so funny is your wife delivers children, and you had just contacted someone.
doula.
Yes.
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
Probably
That's a
another
coincidence.
coincidence.
Probably another coincidence.
Wow. That's about
But-
the 50th one in a week.
Synchronicities.
Yeah, but that would have definitely happened if Austin and I weren't compelled to go on the Clown World Tour and link these people up. And I've been doing this for 4 years, guys. I've literally gone to meetups with men and women who get married. So don't think what you do doesn't matter, because it does. Everything you do matters. It will ripple into eternity, store treasure in heaven. Blessed are you when men revile you and curse you. Go ahead.
Well, let's do
Ethan.
a
All
quick
right, I
prayer
got-
here. Yah, I pray that you're with Lila and her parents, and I pray that you lead them all into all truth. And I pray that you just make her mighty in you so that she can surpass all of us to be connected with you and to do your will. Yah's name we pray. Amen.
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 Sweet. We got one question for you coming right at you guys. So Jack, Mr. C, yeah, tag both of you. Is it possible that there was no King David and Hellenized Jews backfilled the Old Testament?
Wow. That's a random question.
Well, I'll tell you my perspective on it. I'm just going to give you it like this. Torah is truth. The other books, I don't put as much faith into them, and I hate to say this, I don't really need them. It shows a cause and effect of what happens to those who keep the Torah and those who don't. So whether or not, King David was real or not, I believe he was, but if he was or if he wasn't, doesn't change anything for me, because I believe that Yah told Moshe to write these words down, and he wrote them down.
Yeah, I mean, he was an author in the scripture. So,
Yeah. I mean,
All right.
take it or leave it,
Historically accurate figure. I can only say that much if that helps you. So we got Mr. C. Can you explain Enoch calendar and how it works with predicting luminary cycles?
Okay, well, let me address Mr. Anderson's
Sure.
question there first.
Of course.
In my opinion, the text has every word has probably been fiddled with through time, but the information I have leads me to believe that it's meant to be that way specifically. So we have the text that we need for this time, and it's just simply a matter of not relying so much on other people. What do they say? What is their opinion? Go look for you. Don't be afraid. Don't be be afraid of any judgment of your family or anyone. You only get one go at this. You might as well make it a good one and try to do the best you can. So let's move on to this other Enoch calendar. Unfortunately, I have not. I have chosen at this time not to study the Enoch calendar, and it. Let me explain it this way. From what I understand with the Torah and its simplicity, everything we need to understand time is given to us in Genesis,
Observably.
right?
Wow, the sky is a map and a clock.
So I
Not
don't
a
need
mathematical equation, an observation.
right. I don't need Hanak to illuminate me. Well, I know we got to go. Let me dump some time gravy real quick.
Good.
And then maybe we'll do a couple more questions and we can all retire. But let me talk about misinformation and how easy it is for ledger domain to be used on all of us, and that just means sleight of hand or Chris Angel stuff, the tricky stuff, right?
Right.
So we're told throughout the Bible, guys, your eyes and your ears will deceive you. Your eyes and your ears will deceive you. Correct. So if you type in, uh, um, what would it be in the English? Let me see. So the time of first fruits would be, I'm trying to think of what it's going to give us on Google. So if you type in, what's that?
It's Bickareem.
Well, what I was going to say is with this division of time, you have a time of lesser light and a time of greater light,
Right.
which is a fair division that the Creator gave to the two in the beginning, because you can't have light and darkness created, and then when He separated them distinctly, that's why a match will never have a shadow. When He separated them, He had to give them equal stuff to be fair, because He is a fair Creator. He uses a system of equity. So He gives Choshek half the year, and He gives light half the year, right? And so when does the time of again begin? Well, everybody, including most pagan beliefs, put the time of solstice, or excuse me, of equinox around springtime, and that's actually when the Jews celebrate it, as that's first fruits. Unfortunately, when you go and you observe nature and you slow down, you understand that blossoms do not make fruit.
Right.
Wow.
It has to be
Blo-
harvestable.
They make
It
flowers.
has to be harvestable. You
Right.
cannot have flowers. Flowers are always before fruit.
That's why
So
you said the first month is the month of the Aviv, the
right.
harvestable and roastable grain.
Right. So what I did, because I again with biblical archaeology, is I let my fields go and I let them go to first fruits. And I observe year to year when that time is. And every time it happens around solstice, the time of most light. So I have come to understand that grain is Abib or Aviv, or ripe enough or beginning to be ripe around the solstice, which makes the most sense, because it's the time of, again, it's the time of renewal. It's the time when it makes the most sense that stuff will move in towards winter, which is approximately September 20th. And then we come into the time of the most dark at winter solstice. And then we come back to what is in pagan thought known as spring.
Well, the earliest crop though in that land is the barley crop, which does come in early spring.
Okay, so let's address that land. Number one, that land is under a curse. Number two, the Arabs destroyed that land even more when 200 years ago they ripped all the trees out and sand dunes appeared. So number three, Montana shares, and many other places, the same seasons as modern day Israel.
Right.
So that is a psyop that has been planted in your mind, that you have to rely on a Jew to stand on a hill for special barley at a certain time of the year so he can tell you when it's time.
Sounds legit. Was that sacerdolism? Wait, you said Jew, not Catholic, right? You don't have to go stand in front of Catholic.
Yeah, what I'm saying is you can stand at your time and your near perspective to your son,
Gotcha.
and
You mean literally Jew.
yeah, the son, right? So I don't mean that in any anti-Semitic way. Literally, people today rely on a Jew to
Yep.
be there to spot these things for them and then give them a report.
Right.
Wow, that's
When
wild. Mr.
when
C,
I go ahead.
Austin was telling me
We'll look at this thing.
the other day that the most anti-Semitic people are the Jews.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
no, yeah,
because they hate most of Semites that are not them.
yeah, like who's
Exactly.
Palestine? They hate the
Yeah.
Palestine, so they're the most anti-Semitic people I know ever, and then that's actually a Mediterranean language. So
And
it's a stupid
they're
nonsense
European anyways. Who cares?
And,
Yeah,
and how many Americans do you know that like hate Palestinian people? Dude, I don't even know a Palestinian.
Wait, and how
person.
hilarious is it that anti-Semitic is used to somehow describe some type of racism? But ironically, my main critique of that very ideology is ethnic supremacy. But anyway,
Yeah, how crazy.
that's a whole
well,
other-
it's actually geographic bigotry.
Yeah.
Because you never say you hate somebody. You're like, oh, those Africans or those Norwegians. Oh, well, it's geographic bigotry. It has nothing to do with their personage,
True
Oh,
that.
those Europeans.
right? Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, I've never heard that phrase, geographic bigotry. But
I may have coined it.
if
Oh, you're
I
a
may have
legend.
coined it, you are a legend. But you think about what they're doing, it's species bigotry. The elite literally look at us as if we're cattle, sheep, fodder, and we're way lower than them. So
They just want our cigarettes, right? If we're in prison and we all got smokes, they just want us to die so they can get our smokes and resell them.
Right, and do you think? But the reason they look at us like we're fodder or cattle is because, well, we've been detached from some of these, let's just say, enlightening principles.
Exactly. Correct. 100% correct. 100%. You have been made dumb so you can be made a battery, and you can remain dumb and hopefully until you die. And if the herd gets too much, they'll give you a vaccine or they'll treat your herd with something in order to make your herd become smaller. And
if we do a really good job with immunizations, we could reduce the population by 20%.
Exactly. Quote Bill Gates. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Dumb? Underground military bases. That's dumb?
So, yeah, the dumb bases. Yeah, but let's go back to time real quick to finish out. So when you consider time, the time of Aviv is the time of solstice for anyone, anywhere. I guarantee you in Minnesota, when it's solstice in Minnesota, or if it's solstice in Ohio, if you let your grass, which is a natural grain, it has a berry, it has a seed head, all the grasses, the timothies and all these domestic grasses we deal with, they will all grow, they will all get a seed head, and then they will naturally first fruit, right? Or they'll self-seed is what it's called.
Right.
And
they'll hang over heavy with grain, yeah.
Right, exactly. And so it all ties all this, the calendar, real time, observing, should I eat fish? What am I doing? What's going on?
Amen.
All this will come in time. If it's like well, what they people would get all tuned up during Yeshua's time, right? They'd be like, well, he's got 3-foot seats and he eats fish and he had camel one time and he didn't go to Shabbat that one time. And everybody's like, guys.
He did more than a Sabbath day journey.
Yep.
Also,
he goes, guys, let's start off with the baby steps. Let them go hear Moshe on Shabbat.
Right.
At the synagogue.
Right.
And they will come to these understandings over time. No need to freak them out and make them run away screaming because you're trying to tie a tassel to their waist.
Oh, you mean like all the supposed Christians do now?
Well, right. It's all in good time. This guys, how do we all find shalom?
All good things come from above, Mr. C.
How do we find shalom, Nathan?
To be complete. I mean, it means to, like, look, you obviously that situation with that you were talking about, he was dealing with religious, but education, government, religion, it's all the same.
I would say refinement through experience.
I think the answer you're looking for is seek. Seek.
Yeah,
and you will find.
Yeah, what we're looking for right now in this time is what Yeshua told us to look for. Hey guys, in the end times, you're all going to kind of come awake and you'll all kind of start to gather together, whether you know it or not. And we call that synchronicity. And you'll have all these things happening and it'll be all weird and people will have the same thoughts and old men will dream dreams and young men will prophesy and you'll have all these things. And don't be dismayed by the signs in the Shemayim in the sky. Don't be dismayed like the nations, because you know what's coming, in the sense of there's going to be some freaky things coming that will make strong men have heart attacks.
Wow. Yeah. I find it interesting when people read you shoot a lot of context about the end where he says there's going to be wars and rumors of wars and all this stuff. But he says, but the end is not yet. They missed that part.
Yeah,
All these things are just the beginning of birth pains. This is the beginning of the end of the end.
Well, let's say that there was a world catastrophe around 1700, and there was a great inward lake in modern day BC that was drawn. It was an inward sea actually that was slightly larger than Hudson Bay, and it didn't show the Rocky Mountain chain at all. And then all of a sudden you have cartography that shows the Rocky Mountain chain and
Right.
volcanoes
Right.
and all these things, and all the entire high prairie all the way through Saskatchewan and Alberta and all the way down through the States is wiped out, void of trees, and that entire inland sea is drained.
Right. Oh yeah.
When did that happen? Why don't we hear about that?
What about the California island?
Right, exactly. So we live in a time that we can see anciently. I study, of course, the ancient cartography for Yerushalayim and for that area, and I can say without a doubt, I know right where all Sodom and Gomorrah and all the sister cities are, without a doubt, 100%. Do you guys know why?
Because it washed down the ashes.
No, that the old cartographers, if we don't believe that they sniffed glue and were ding-dongs, they actually drew the ancient cities in the mid 1400s exactly where they are.
Right, but I'm saying that the reason that they knew they were there is because they saw, right angle corners of ash, like these cities were nothing but ashen.
No. You're so. Do you know where these cities are today?
No, I'm very interested.
North of the Dead Sea.
They're beneath the Dead Sea. They are drawn. I did a map overlay of a Google image over cartography that I found from a mid 1400s book that matched perfectly. In fact, Bethlehem is moved. That was mud flooded apparently, and now it's to the left of Jerusalem. In the perspective of looking like Mount Hermon would be on the left,
right?
And the Dead Sea is slightly smaller, but
I have not seen these, dude. I need to look at that. That's
talk about some gravy, bro.
So, are you saying that Atlantis might be real?
Oh, for sure.
Well, for sure.
Mr. C says Atlantis is real for sure.
Between America and England.
So there's been a geographical displacement that we actually could get to the bottom of.
Modernly, guys, you got to realize that if the truth has been hidden, then that Egyptian sorcerer that is famous, he's famous for saying there's been many catastrophes over many generations. Why do you think we write our stuff on stone?
Yeah,
right.
Because paper burns.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at like Google Maps of the ocean floor, you'll see like highways and side streets, sorts of weird stuff.
All kind of stuff.
Burning. Speaking of that, why don't you just get a Kindle? What is Kindle, right? We are in the biggest book burning process in the history of man.
That's how the phoenix rises out of the ashes.
So basically, if you were to burn to ashes
the real Kindle, or you can get an Amazon Fire.
Yeah.
Did you get
the real information? You bring the Phoenix replacement and, or let's just say, exoteric representation of the info,
which is literally why everyone listening needs to go follow Be the Change, because they are book burning. My channel was deleted with 15,000 subs. It's a matter of time until Austin either gets a strike or deleted. We know this; it's coming. So follow Be the Change. So the day that happens, we can go live. Please.
Has to happen to the phoenix before it can be reborn?
It has to die first.
Ashes.
Yes. So I've heard Trump say that we're going to rise from the ashes. There's so many clues given to us through time that these Phoenicians are the Phoenike, or the men of victory, or the men of the phoenix, and that they burn societies once they use them up. Guys, we're starting to get wise to all their spells. We're starting to get wise to their banking. We're starting to get wise to all their tricks. and now they light a match and burn it and destroy it so they can build a
Start
new.
over.
Yeah, right.
All right.
And
See, I'm gonna do a closing statement. All y'all stick to your conviction, but always seek truth. Don't trust what you believe. I don't even trust what I believe. I always seek it out. So bless y'all. I'm gonna cut. I'm done.
all right, Jack, it was very nice speaking with you, brother.
You too, Mr. C. My throat is just.
Yeah,
I know.
absolutely legendary stream from my perspective. Mr. C, if you want to give a closing statement and maybe where to find you, if that's a thing, then that'd be great.
And Mr. C, I actually had some people in the chat saying, you need to start a channel, bro. And for 20, 30, 10, 5 minutes a day, little, just please. Thank you.
You know what I would rather do, because of my personal situation, is well, actually, let me put this out there. I was watching Jaren yesterday from Glowbusters, Jaren.
Mhm.
And yep,
Yeah.
and
There's more than one Jared?
yeah, right, yeah,
Who's the other?
Jaren. And what's that?
No, I
Nothing going
got
on.
you. We all knew exactly who you were talking about. I love
Oh,
Darren.
okay,
He's a legend. He's a
so
legend.
I desperately wanted to talk with him in his live stream, because there are many biblical things that he believes from Jesuit school
Right.
that is wrecking his brain for wrapping his head around reality
Exactly.
when it comes to the Bible.
That's the show that Nathan wanted to share with you, where me and Witsit were talking to Jaren about how everything's graveled. Everything they teach you about the Bible is wrong.
Right. I'd actually. So what I would propose, and of course this is up to.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say what I would propose, and it's of course up to Austin and Nathan, but I really would prefer just to come in and live stream on their channel and give them some views, as opposed to building a channel myself and all that stuff.
Okay,
So,
yeah, man,
if that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think personally, Austin's a little tired of doing it. So we'd love to have you on.
Nah,
Perfect.
Yeah, that sounds incredible, bro. Maybe we could do a regular or something. And this has been incredible for me. Like y'all have both made very clear to everyone, this is layers and layers and layers of what we call gravy. It's things that would melt your mind as is currently formed, but really it's just simplicity in the divinity that is where we exist. And, you know, you listen to these guys for years. They have been looking into it, and they're still getting to the different layers. They're constantly acknowledging different layers. And so that's the main thing to take from this. I've just been soaking it in, brought my biscuits, and I thought it was awesome. Thank you very much for both ladling the gravy, because it was incredible.
And I have one thing to say, Mr. C. Grave, E. I mean, where do you go when you die? You go into a grave, right? And what's E?
Right.
Well, what is E, right? Maybe E is the E that goes. So everyone has an ego. So when we're laid on gravely, and you're like, oh, my mind is melting, that's just your ego leaving, because real people who have eyes to see and ears to hear are humble, meaning you can learn things. So when we say the word gravy, I just want you to think of ego death. Like just who you thought you were changed. And that's a good thing, because when I was a little kid, I used to hold my middle finger up to the sky, Mr. C, and say, if God is real, the G word, because I did know his real name.
Right. You get a pass. You get a pass.
Why wouldn't he strike me down with lightning? Because I'm literally flipping him off right now.
Because his mercy is renewed every day.
Because his mercy, not only is his mercy good, he's good to the good and the bad people. But he says, I have a plan for you, and all things work towards good. So now I'm literally standing in an RV in South Carolina. Austin and I stepped out on faith. What we want to do, we don't even have enough money for it. But we're going, this is good. If we do this, it will be good. And we're doing it. And if it gets cut short, cool. If not, we will literally hang out with you in Montana in about a month and a half, 2 months. So I love you.
It depends on how long I convince you guys to stay here.
I love you, dude. I know. We've had so much fun, bro. Honestly, Just Jack has the most woke kids I've ever met in my
children
in my life. And I've been traveling I've met 3,000 to 5,000 flat earthers, and his kids are literally the most woke kids.
Children.
I can't.
It's just funny.
It's funny. It is funny.
It is.
But they're super based, and this community is getting stronger. And like you said, we were told, she was straight up told us that, you know, what's going to happen. You may not even intellectualize it or understand it. People are going to start being brought together and awakened, and truth is going to be rekindled, if you will. And of course, Hosea, right? You know, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
That's right.
And so this is what we're supposed to be doing. And if you are truly seeking the truth, you will be led to also go and find some of these, maybe even initially uncomfortable truths due to indoctrination. That's why I think both these guys are incredible for putting all of the indoctrination aside and wanting to go seek out the truth for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all, guys, we're in a maximum security prison. You're living in a meat suit. And people want security. So the most secure thing you could do is understand God's in control. G word. I just used it. I understand. Pops, Abba Father, he's in control, not the government. So don't be scared.
Oh, good time.
Don't be scared. Don't be fearful.
Wrapping it up for 11.
Stand up for truth. Be an inspiration to the people around you. Be the change you want to see on flat Earth. It's you. It starts with you. So I love you guys.
All right. So running data from my phone. The phone's gonna die. So we're gonna wrap this up. Mr. C, hit us with whatever you want to finish up. Super interested in future streams, or we can even work out something regularly, whatever you want to do, because you later the gravy. I'm a big fan myself, as I am Just Jack. So shout out to both of them. Mr. C, you want to say anything while we wrap it up?
Yeah, no, it's been a good time, and let's do more of these things as you guys are on your travels, and the context will be different, obviously, every time. So it'll be fun.
Sweet, absolutely cool, man.
Love you, bro.
Yeah,
I love you, bro.
All right, I love you guys.
Both of you guys are awesome. And
Shalom, Aki.
Hey, real quick, I want to shout out Joe on
Shalom.
Jack, the lumberjack that you introduced me to. That guy's awesome.
Joe. Yeah, Joe's my brother.
Oh, it's your literal blood brother?
No. Well, I mean, he's my eternal brother.
Right.
Amen. Ethereal brother.
Yeah, he's my eternal brother forever. Yeah.
Ethereal.
The only one that counts. If he was my vampire brother, that doesn't really mean squat, right?
Right. Yeah. Well,
I'm in love with a robot.
We drink blood together.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
All right, I love you guys. We'll talk for another 4 hours. The stream will just abruptly end in a matter of seconds. You guys are awesome. Everyone that donated, I will read everything out at the beginning of the next stream. At the beginning of the next stream, we'll get everything caught up. No one's going to get left out, but the internet will cease to exist in just a second. But yeah, dude, like I said, y'all are legends. Thanks for kicking it, and we will catch up with y'all later. Always stay unplugged from the system. It's just used to distract you, and this is the moment of people waking up. So free your mind. Thanks for kicking it. We'll catch up.